What's up, everyone? Welcome to the GG Millions. I'm AllinPav, joined by Vidur Singhal. Vidur, what's up, mate? How you doing?
Doing amazing, pal. How about yourself? I know you're in Vegas, living it up, experiencing the
Yep.
best of the live poker scene, but here we are experiencing perhaps the best of the online poker scene with the GG Millions, the elite tournament. I'm so excited to cover this with you and excited to kick this off.
Yeah. Can't escape the online world. Got to do my rounds. Vegas, it's good though. Played the main. Taking Jeff's spot today as he's still in day 5. So good luck to Jeff. And keen to see
Good luck.
some good online poker today.
Absolutely. I mean, GG Millions never disappoints, of course. We have crazy selection of 9 players here making it to the FT, over $1 million in prize pools to play for, excuse me, for 230,000 USD to first. This is no chump change. This is going to be crazy. I love seeing cards up action. I get to learn a lot. I'm excited to learn it with you. I mean, this is going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, we've got some really strong players on the final table, so I'm very keen to see some high-level play here.
Here we see it.
All right, here's the rankings. Here we have Horwood at 1.5 million there, sitting first. Total prize for 1,040,000. So ended up getting 140 entries. Sorry, 104 entries. And here's what we're playing for.
5,000 up. Oh, my apologies. Misspoke. 230, 195, almost 196, 176,000 second place, all the way down to 31,000 to ninth place, which is guaranteed, of course, to everyone.
Here we go. Final 9 remain.
Wow, look at that profile photo there, Pav. That is intense, man.
That is.
All in
I wouldn't want to mess
SPT.
with that.
That's Bruno Souza from Brazil. Love to see it. I need to take some inspiration from this. I have some menacing profile photos. All the other ones seem so tame now in comparison, don't they?
All right, here we go. We're on the way. So looking at some of the big stacks here, 1.8 million to first right now. David Yarn in the big blind, ace for offsuit, and Nicholas Lena plays a 3.5x. David with a little over, we have here, a little over 30 big blinds. Interesting spot. You might want to play this aggressively and play like a 3-bet at some frequency, but decides to just call, which is fine.
Yeah, talk about setting
But
the
it's always
tone.
going to be, yeah, it's 10-7 of hearts. It's a nice selection at this stack depth. Yeah. David Yarn not wanting to float there without a spade is reasonable. You want to be a lot tighter with your continues when there's ICM in play.
Yeah, I want to ask you about ICM, Pav. I mean, the chip distribution, not too crazy, I'd say. The shortest stack, about half of the biggest stack. How does that change the game? I mean, I would say everybody's fairly narrow in terms of being close to each other. Sort of the ICM range is not that wide. What should the strategy be coming into a table like this?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think the ICM is super heavy just yet because everyone is relatively close. Once you start getting in the range of there being like a lot of big stacks and a lot of short stacks, then that's when like the middle stacks can be pressured a lot. But in this case here, I think we need to let it play out a little bit until we get to like more 20 big blind stacks where you can start seeing a lot more pressure being put on. But I don't expect the big stacks to be putting on a bunch of pressure right now. That being said, they will be lifting up their frequencies and raising a little bit more.
Speaking of which, interesting to see David fold a suited hand on the button. Always interested to see what kind of strategy the shortest stack comes in with, or one of the short stacks in this case with David Yan.
Alexi should open the ace-10 here, and then we should see a 3-bet on the button. That's interesting. Like, I don't think calling here, I don't think this is bad at all. You certainly don't want to get it all in here with Ace King offsuit or over 40 big blinds versus another big stack. So this is just a good example of what ICM is doing here. You want to be very careful with your offsuit hands, especially versus big stacks in early positions. So not at all shocked to see this. Ace 10 with a club can bet or check here. I think with the ace of clubs, you'd see a bet all the time. Without it, we'll see a mix for sure. But it's going to be a super tight flooding range for the button, or relatively tight. So, but that being said, I think 10-9 suited is still going to be in his range. Jack 10 suited, so pretty good spot. Alexi is unblocking a hand like Jack 10 suited, so this could be a nice multi-barrel hand depending on the right turn card.
And Alexi, of course, is
Interesting.
looking to fold out the smaller pairs and other such hands that might flat the button. Now, Ace King being underrepresented decides to pump up the action there. Very interesting line. I mean, you mentioned it's completely standard to flat given the ICM pressure. I mean, a lot of players would not suspect that. You see Ace King, you want to potentially try and take it down or not too hesitant to get your chips in the middle. But great point there. I mean, it would be ICM suicide to take a flip there.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting to see a raise as well there. I didn't expect to see a raise on that flop, so yeah, interesting stuff. Because generally, like when you raise, it's tough to get called by too many worse hands because Alexi is not always going to be C betting like King 10 there, King 8 suited. King Queen doesn't love betting, but probably will. So yeah, you just once you get like re-raised on the flop, all of a sudden you're hating Ace King. So interesting to see that raise.
Maybe a little bit of range advantage. Of course, Nick is the only one who could have had the nuts with Queen 10, perhaps suited on the button. And in case you're up against a monster like a set, maybe you want to find out where you're at, start deciding and start doing some pot control in position.
Yeah. So we have a limp, and he checks back the King Queen suited, does Picasso. Decides to bet the flop. Think bet or check is totally fine, and checking a lot of your range on Jack 6-3 in the small blind is nice, especially with a bad Jack.
Binks the turn
Mm.
to get some value. And the
Probably
hand,
expect to
Jack
see
8.
something like, yeah, a little bit more than half pot. Nice little size here. And Jack
Yeah,
8,
great sizing.
I don't think can fold, especially as a big stack.
Pretty great spot for Picasso 98 early on in this final table. This would be an amazing fold. He does, in fact, call, not surprising. Brick on the river. What do you think, Pav? Is there any way to get away from top pair here?
I think it's sure. I think it's fine without heart in your hand. Picasso is not going to be betting. Sure, the ranges are wide, but he's also betting into a big stack for two streets. The deuce is a bit of an irrelevant card. Small blind shouldn't, turn too many two pairs. He shouldn't turn a heap of flushes since you'll start betting some flush draws on the flop. So yeah, the main thing is that he won't have that many two pairs, and yeah, there's gonna be a good amount of betting for the big blind.
Big
Yeah, it's
bet.
tough. It's a very tough spot. Without a heart, you can probably get away because Big Blind doesn't even want to raise a hand like King Queen much pre-flop, which means he still has, King Jack, Queen Jack. He's gonna check back a lot of suited hands, not wanting to get limp raised.
Tense moment early on. There might be a big swing of chips here if the jacket does decide to call it off. I'm sure the other short stacks are eyeing this hand very keenly. I was about to say, Picasso could have been the new short stack if the other stacks didn't realize he had the winning hand there. But as it happens, he crosses the million chip mark.
And if you
Vivian
guys
is
look at the
now
YouTube
shortest.
chat, there is a hands up event going on. So click that link and guess the final winning hands, and you can win the jackpot. So link in the chat, guys.
Yeah, who do you think is going to win and what hand are they going to do it with? You only need to tell us the hand. When it gets down to heads up, what will be the winning hand? What will be the online version of the winner's photo with the hand? And win some prizes. Pav, I'm always following Jeff's streams for the GG Millions. He is, of course, sorely missed. A special shout out to Jeff Gross, of course, not only the OG of the stream and the poker world, but running deep in the main is the reason he is not here today. So we wish him all the luck in the world. And anybody in chat, anybody who's a fan of Jeff, keep that energy coming. Follow Poker News, of course, if you want updates on what's going on in the main.
Yep. Also, we have Patrick Tardif. He's still in day 5. He co-hosted the GG Millions last week as well. So good luck to him. He's got a big stack. I think he's a top 10 stack with like 1.7 million.
Wow.
Mm.
I checked the top stacks, by the way. 2 Indians out of the top 10 stacks in the main,
Really?
which is pretty crazy to see. I mean, there have been Indians that have made deep runs, but maybe like 30th place, 40th place at the most. One of them is a bracelet winner as well, Nikita Luthra, one of the top players in India. So pretty cool to see, man, from my home country, the talent exploding not only on the online felts, but also on the live tournament. Of course, your home country is well known to dominate live tournament scenes. How are the Australians doing right now in the World Series?
I saw Joe Hashim. I think he was up there. He's still in day
He's
5.
in the mix. Yeah, he's in the mix. Him and Moneymaker. Back to the action here. Queen Jack suited. Let's it go.
Yeah, interesting one there. I don't expect it to be like a great call or a great 3-bet versus under the gun. But yeah, it's just like I think Nick realizes he can't put on too much pressure just yet because, like you mentioned earlier, the stacks are still relatively close, so he can't really pressure under the gun. I think they're going to be playing pretty close to chip EV. All right, Lena with the ace-5 suited under the gun and a nice defend from Queen Jack. Jack 9 deuce. Let's see what Lena does here without a flush draw. He wants to just bet and try and take it down. Third sizing. And I don't think Rodrigo ever wants to check raise here. He wants to get it in with really, really good hands. Queen Jack getting it all in for 40 big blinds on Jack 9 deuce does not seem great. What a turn card here for Lena. And this is really interesting for Rodrigo now because he has to figure out which hands he wants to call the turn with. If he's not calling a jack, is he only calling an ace? Or does he like his queen? Does he prefer to have a 10 in his hand? So Lena can still have more like king queen, since Lena won't have much offsuit 10x under the gun. So
It's
it's
also a
almost
card the
better
under the gun Razor might want to represent every time, but what a great fold.
Yeah, very nice fold.
It's perfect. Folds went ahead, folds went behind. What more could he want? Sweet stuff.
Let's see if Queen Jack suited wants to get in the mix here with another big stack. Could see a 3-bet. But like I was saying earlier, with the stacks so close, like how much value is there in 3-betting right here? I think this is a pretty cool spot. He's equal first, and Nick here is sitting third, or so Nick's sitting fourth here. So I feel like this is like a spot you can take if you feel like. It's not going to be too bad. Nick's always going to be super tight when it comes to 3-bets. So even like he should be folding a hand like ace 10, ace jack, king queen offsuit, just continuing like a lot of suited hands and pairs, and surprising to see him fold 9s there.
Wow.
Hmm.
Certainly the tightest player on this table so far. That queen jack suited fold, 9s right now. I guess the game plan is to preserve chips while some of these shorter stacks are still around and find much better spots. Maybe spots where you can 4-bet instead of just calling and trying to feel.
All right, so we have no cards now. We're gonna try and guess what they have.
Oh, love it. Let's play along. Much more easier, I have to say, when you can see the cards.
All right, so we have the 3-bet on the button, starting with a little under 40 big blinds and 3-bet into big stack. So typically, I think in this spot, we'd be 3-betting just a lot of good blockers like ace-x, suited kings. Maybe go a little bit wider because it's a big stack opening. And we got the cards again.
I feel like a sense of relief when the cards come back. I feel so useless as a commentator when the actual decision is on me in terms of what I might do in that scenario without all the information. And we were talking about some of these folds earlier with the queen with the jack by Rodrigo. I mean, these elite plays just make me realize I would have busted this tournament like 103 players ago. Make
So
advanced and
poor
elite plays
check
look
back
so easy.
there. Alexei checking back 10-7 on 10-6 deuce versus the big blind. Just checking back some bad tens, but surprising not to see a c-bet, as he shouldn't face too much check raise on this board. Nick's gonna really not check raise at all. He shouldn't have any two pairs on this board. So surprising check back. I don't think Nick can continue there with king high, and obviously not good enough to bluff the turn. And under the gun. Should just take it down. What up to SM Pav? You're still in Vegas. Yes, this is day 8 in Vegas, and I'm leaving in 6 days. Trying to play cash for the most part. Tournaments is just I love tournaments, but when it comes to live tournaments, it's very draining. Takes a long time. Cash is just better suited for me. With a week to go.
I can't verify this information because it's coming in chat, but Jason Parker in chat says David Yan needs 6th place to turn a profit in this one. Apparently fired 6 bullets to get here. I'll be verify
Yep.
that. That is a fascinating piece of trivia. That is crazy. Maybe that's part of the strategy here as well, you think?
So he made up for like 5% of the prize pool just through his entries alone.
That is incredible.
Isn't it?
9th place, of course, guaranteed 32,000 USD. That would be just a hair over 3 buy-ins for David, if indeed he did buy in 6 bullets.
Lena folding king queen offsuit there. I'm sure he was thinking about free betting that one. But you can just see, like, in a lot of heavy ICM setups or just ICM in general, people look to find suited hands as 3-bets if they're like deeper with another player. So I think, like, if we're going to see any offsuit 3-bets from Lena in that spot, he's probably going to use more ace-x if he's going to fold king queen offsuit, because it seems like a nice hand to 3-bet sometimes. But I think Lena just doesn't see there being much value in using that one versus the early position raising range.
Meanwhile, the ace-5 suited takes it down. That's K-Mas like Constantine. We'll just call him K-Mas like for now. Well-timed 3-bet there against a middle position open. Takes it down. 3-bets tend to have been uncontested so far. It's the pattern of the final table, which might often happen because of that lack of ICM, or rather extra ICM pressure because of lack of chip differential between the players. Interesting start to this proceeding.
Yeah, looking to feel each other out, it seems. And I was curious to see what Picasso's, if he's going to fold any bad ace-x on the button here, but decides to open the ace-3 offsuit, take it down.
Talk about the pace of play, by the way. We can barely keep up. I mean, these elite players, they're not tanking. They're not looking at any sort of
it's nice.
timing edges. Just let's play more and more poker. They all think they have an edge against each other. That's the beauty of it. Any favorites here, by the way, Pav? Any players you're familiar with?
I'm familiar with David Yan. He's also an upswing coach, very, very good player. So he's a bottom 2 stack right now, and he needs 6th to make money or to break even. So I'm quietly rooting for him. That would be nice to see. Very, very good player. And I prefer right now looking at David Yan and Lena. These two are really interesting to me and how they're going to play this final table.
David Yan, also the most successful player of this season on this final table, over 1 million USD in GG earnings already this year. I mean, that is just incredible.
Having a great season.
Equally good to see some lesser known faces, especially ones who have not had a great season, so to speak. Sometimes they might just have a 0 on the scoreboard, guaranteed at least 31, almost $32,000 already. Looking to bump it up to over 195.
And interesting to see Alexi check the ace-5 on 10-8 deuce there versus the big blinds. I think he recognizes that, like, in a normal spot that isn't a final table, he might see bet a lot there. Since he knows Lena won't be defending a lot of those, like, bad offsuit hands, like king-5, king-6, king-7 offsuit, I think he just doesn't like betting on 10-8 deuce. He's not going to fold out too many junky hands. So a nice disciplined check back and lays it down. Even though Lena takes it down with 9 high, I think it's a nice check back.
An important pickup, by the way, there for Goku 9000. Shortest stack at the time on the table. Queen Jack off from the cutoff. Quick open. No resistance. Once again, David Young now the shortest stack. Looking at about, I believe that would be 25 or so big blinds.
Yep, looks about that. And yeah, we've seen the 3-bet with ace-queen offsuit here. Not wanting to play many calls with offsuit hands with players behind. So this is interesting to see. And we should probably just see a fold from Alexa here. Not being really deep enough to continue like really small pairs.
What do you think the plan there is with the ace queen off against a 4-bet of any sort? Let it go. This is one of those 3-bet. Well, there we go.
Wow.
That is exactly what happens. All in. Talk about ICM pressure. Well played.
Yeah, very interesting.
Down.
That's a hand I'd love to look at. That is very, very interesting. Because he must assume that there's going to be a very wide 3-betting range if he's going to shove that. You know, if he thinks that he's being 3-bet by ace-10, ace-jack, ace-queen offsuit all the time, and king-queen offsuit, then perhaps you can do that. Because he knows that he's not going to be getting 3-bet with pocket 9s. Like, a lot of that is just calling, so it's like 10s plus, and then a lot of offsuit hands. So very interesting.
And perhaps
could have
also, I mean, the wide 3-bet range and the extremely narrow calling range for ICM and in general, I mean, there's also that added equity of not wanting to be the first person out on the final table. I don't know if elite players experience it, but you know, you've taken a break, you've gotten used to the 31,000 or so you're making. You want to make the best decisions, of course, but sometimes you want to make that extra, you know, that extra pay jump before you get too frisky, perhaps.
I think it's well played by both. Ace Queen. I just don't think you want to be playing mini calls with offsuit hands with like 3 players behind you. I think it's a nice one. The shove, I didn't expect it, but very, very nicely timed.
You know, sometimes if you just think you're going to get a lot of better hands to fold, some players just go for it. And with pocket deuces over there, you know, I mean, obviously every hand has at least 50% equity, but you know, a lot of premium hands are going to lay it down, and ace queen exactly fell into that. Well played on both players' accounts.
And Nick opening in the cutoff there was 7-5 suited. Getting a little bit aggressive, interesting, after folding the 9s at a 3-bet. Now nice open with ace-9. I wonder if we see a 3-bet in the button. He did 3-bet queen-jack suited last time versus Nick, but no, lays it down.
Slow and steady chip up there by Nick. 1.26 million now.
All right, here we go. We're playing with Lena, so we get to see Lena's hand and no one else's. So king, queen suited, opening in early position. And will Goku defend? He does. 5-4 deuce rainbow. So what are your thoughts here, Vidur?
Smashes the defense range of the big blind. Small continuation bet about 1/3 with the king queen suited. I mean, absolutely no connection with the board whatsoever. Obviously praying to take it down, and there we go. Goku continues. I mean, if it was me, I'd be done with this hand. Now the question is, with backdoor diamonds coming in, can you start telling some sort of a story? Of course, king queen could be good.
This is interesting. Like he doesn't have any equity, but he is in early position, and he knows that Goku shouldn't be defending many 5, 4, and deuce X. Like he'll have fives, fours, and deuces. He'll have some suited aces like ace deuce, ace four, ace five suited. He'll float the flop with like ace 10. Yeah, he'll probably have a lot of ace highs here, so you have to barrel twice a lot. On this river, I don't mind following it through. It's actually a very good card here, the 4. Um, it just makes it a little bit tougher now for him to have pocket fours and ace 4 suited. Uh, that being said, his turn calling range is going to contain a lot of pair plus ace. But Lena not having any
Insta-call.
diamonds here.
What
Yeah.
the wheel? Goku just gets on the good side of a triple barrel and finds the double up. Wow. As you
I
said,
really like that play.
yeah. Same
Yeah,
here.
not having
It made a lot of
diamonds
sense to
is
follow
very
through
nice.
with the triple barrel.
Yeah, I think so. I can't think of many better bluffs in that spot. Not having any of the suits in the flop, so he unblocks all those backdoor diamond combos. I think it's a nice one.
How about aces for Constantine against the short stack of David Yan, who opened fairly loose, being the short stack under the gun +1, king, queen off. Sort of an ambitious open. Maybe a little bit of momentum there in terms of after a big hand, just try to take it down. Probably he's going to have to let this one go against the 3-bet. Is the shortest stack.
I think it's a good
Yeah.
open. You know, he's one of the shortest stacks, so he can effectively play like a normal chip EV opening range. Because it's not a big deal if he raise folds. He's still going to be sitting as like a short stack or a bottom 2 stack. So it doesn't matter too much. It doesn't change the stack distribution much at all. So I think it's well played. I was curious to see if there's going to be a slow play with aces there, but decided to go for the 3-bet. Should see a lot of shoves. Maybe a call here in a small blind. Maybe a call, but there's such a wide range. I think we'll see a shove pretty often here with ace jack suited. There are 2 shorter stacks though, so maybe we just want to call ace jack suited here. Tread a little bit lightly. But it more comes down to how wide is the cutoff going to be opening here to justify shoving. 8-6-2 is going to see a very heavy flop bet. Alexei knows that the small blind won't be. He should never have any overpairs. 8s should shove pre-flop. 6s, sure. 6s might just shove though as well. So very, very nice board. And the question is, how wide does he want to continue here in a small blind? Is a backdoor flush draw with ace high good enough? Interesting check back. I don't think we should be seeing many bluffs here. I think he just wants to go to showdown. He can't really rep this board much. He won't have many suited 9s in the small blind. So we should see a check, a bet, and probably a fold.
Great bing there for Alexei. He's going to feel so much more comfortable in this hand now. Just trying to go for value. Has the ace of diamond as well.
Interesting if he checks it again. Don't think he will, though.
That'd be pretty creative. Which, of course, these players are.
Yeah, he's not going to be up against, like, a heap of ace-x. So if he knows that he's up against ace-jack, he's just going to check a lot here. But he knows ace-king and ace-queen are shoving pre a lot. So that means he's going to be up against more like king-queen, king-jack, king-10 suited. So it just makes a little bit more sense to clear out equity from hands that are live against you. Whereas in a spot like that, if you share cards a lot, then checking again is quite cool. Because there's a chance you can both river top pair and you can just cooler him. Stack opening under the gun here. Pretty suited Broadway.
Hands for Picasso. Flats. Once again, ICM pressure coming into play. David Yan, of course, has half the stack of Picasso. Lets it go. Preserves that one blind. Does not want to peel with queen jack off. Dream board for Picasso. 3 undercards, and the under the gun plus 2 open. Really should not be hitting this range at all. Constantine, of course, is the big stack. Back to Picasso. Small bet. Let's
Yeah,
go.
not wanting to get crazy there with that. Just no equity, not wanting to play check raise. Think just good discipline.
That's an important piece of being the big stack, isn't it, Pav? To know when to slow down as well. Not let your ego get into it or this burden of being the big stack and trying to take down every pot and really apply ICM pressure. Gotta pick your
Yeah,
spots.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's that's good discipline. It's so easy just to blast off and think, oh, I'm still gonna have a big stack even if I lose a big pot here. Yeah, good discipline. They should see a C bet here on 10-6-3. A board that Nick shouldn't check raise much. Should just go small bet and fold a good amount. Oh, checks it back with the backdoor flush draw. Interesting. And I think Nick is going to take a stab at this. He has an overcard with a gutter, no spade. But I think Nick is going to take a stab. He does. Goes for a big bet. Don't expect to see a fold here just yet.
Second pair, top kicker, wet board. Good enough to continue. Gets the check mark. Constantine, that is. The question is, Nick has been fairly snug with the exception of the stab we just saw. Sort of been on the chip preservation side of strategy. I think this is a sort of make or break spot. Does he go for it? Knows he cannot be winning.
And this is like a great card as well. Like we ace when you call a7 on the turn, whenever the board pairs, this is a great card. So I don't expect him to fold many rivers unless we see like a pot size bet here. But the problem here for Nick is he has really just zero equity here. So does he want to go to showdown and give up, or does he want to bet here without a spade? Because we might see
About
some checkbacks
60%
with like
pot.
king queen of spades or ace x of spades under the gun.
No fear. What is he representing here, Pub?
Looks like he's representing a flush or a good 10. I think he wants to value bet hands like queen 10, king 10, ace 10. He's flushes and 8-9. Wow. Gets the fold.
Well played. Great sizing there
Strong
to get that
poker.
fold. As you said,
Yeah,
Constantine
really
would have
strong
been calling
poker.
pretty, most bets with the board pairing on the river with that second pair top kicker. So really put those chips to work. And Nick now, 1.5 million in chips, pretty much tied with Constantine, sort of second in chips on the table. Third in chips, two co-chip leaders in the form of DePaul and
David Yarn opening the king 9, which seems probably like at the bottom of his range here. Again, like I mentioned, he's opening a chip EV range as being the shorter stack. It'll be a little tiny bit tighter than chip EV, so I think king 9. I think he would fold to hand like king 7 offsuit, maybe king 8 offsuit. But just unlucky there to run into a big hand. Not much going well for him here. If he finishes 9th, he will be down 30,000 after firing 6 bullets in this tournament. So he needs to get to work.
incredible. Incredible. Imagine firing 6 bullets, making the final table, still being down 50% of your buy. That information, by the way, unverified. I will trust Jason Parker in chat.
So we see a check back from the ace-4 here. Not loving the paired boards versus big blinds. Doesn't want to get check raised. Check on the turn and fills up on the river. And potentially we see a big bet here from Queen Jack. Got the diamond. He's got more 4x, more 9x in his range. We might see an overbet or a pot size bet. The problem, of course, is that he is blocking some of the folds here from Goku. Like, he wants him to have ace queen and ace jack. So that's a little bit unfortunate. he also blocks, king queen, king jack. So yeah, this spot I'm very keen to see what he decides to go with. Went check,
Taking his
check,
time.
check, check. Does he overbet? Does he pot it?
Do you think at these levels there are any timing tells to be deduced, Pav? Or are they just too well
Um,
balanced?
yeah, potentially. I mean, I think also in a lot of spots like this, like people who are value betting and bluffing recognize that it's a tough spot to find bluffs, and I think they're going to tank regardless. I think they're all going to be pretty spot on and not give away timing tells really. And also, like if you have this much time on the final table, you may as well use it and think of the best size. Every pot counts. So I think in a spot like this, it's okay to use, like a minute or two. Like if you're gonna bet, for example, like 2x pot, bet 320,000 here, you want to think about what you're doing that with for bluffs and value. If you do it so quickly, it's a little bit tougher to think about your bluffs, and it might be a little bit more value heavy.
Yeah, and
Oh,
these guys
decides
are
to
the
give up.
absolute does decide to give up is to be on the losing end of this one. I was just about to say these guys are the elite, and they tend to be extremely balanced, as you said. Even if they did not need the time to think of a value bet to make in that situation, they would recognize that it's tough to find bluffs and take their time. We do
Yeah.
see chips go in the way of Goku. By the way, special shout out to the man in chat. Jeff Gross Poker says, "Hi guys, hello Jeff.
Oh,
Good
Jeff.
luck
Good
at
luck
day
today.
5 of the main event. Hope it's going well. Haven't had a chance to check in on his chip stack, but in case you find the time, Jeff, let us know how you're doing. Make a big move. Just type it out in chat first. Going all in with pocket aces. Wish me luck. I'll be rooting for you. How sick would it be to see Jeff Gross? Final table of the main event. That's it. Putting it
That'd be
out in the
great.
universe. Gotta happen. Anybody in chat saying hi to Jeff? Make sure you put that out in the universe as well. That's the November 9er, except in July. Jeff Gross. Jam, by the way. 3-bet jam by Ace Queen. Fairly standard play, but definitely risky. Button open. Always going to be super wide. Ace Queen good enough to get it in there. Get holes majority of the time. DePaul taking a few hits, no longer the chip leader.
Those spots are going to be very, very nerve-wracking because you have a lot of shorter stacks, so you're just hoping it's a very, very wide range and you don't get called by any pairs or ace king. But seems a good spot. And John Shannon in the chat asking, does David Yarn play any hands? Well, it's only been a few orbits now, so you can't really do much when you're with card distribution. You need to pick up some good hands, and I think he's played quite well given the hands he's been given. And yeah, I don't think he could have done much else unless you wanted to open up the 6-5 suited under the gun with 20 big blinds.
Well, John seems to have nudged David into opening King Queen off middle position and gets resistance from Goku from the blinds. This is maximum ICM pressure at play.
Really, really interesting 3-bet because David Yarn, he's going to be the player at the table with the least ICM pressure. Amazing shove. I love it. He must have a read on Goku there because, yeah, that's really, really, really interesting.
Wow.
Goku
I'm blown
using
away.
a bad ace. Amazing.
Yeah, that is one for the highlight reel. I mean, what a small 4-bet shove that was. He probably expected to get called by majority of Goku's range, but as you said, maybe he had a read. Maybe he recognized his own situation looking a little bit susceptible to getting ICM pressured and just decided to fight back. And what a great result to pick up those chips without contact.
Yeah, the big blind's range in that spot, he's basically repping like aces, kings, and queens. Jacks and tens are likely going all in pre-flop. So I think what David loves about that spot is he blocks kings and queens, and aces typically like to slow play and just call their pre-flop since David's already so short. So he's not worried about aces. He blocks kings and queens. He just decides to go for it there. He doesn't expect ace king, ace queen offsuit. He thinks that will shove. Maybe he's up against ace king suited. But yeah, really strong play. Recognizing perhaps he has some history there with Goku. So yeah, really amazing shove.
So you're almost suggesting that he'd rather have king queen off there than maybe nines or tens.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how that spot plays. You want to have good blockers more than anything. And flopping middle set here for jacks, betting small and ace jack deuce. Unblocking top pair seems very nice, but unfortunately the big stack just has nothing. Shout out Josh McCulley in the chat. Strong tournament player. How you doing, Josh?
Feel free to read out the comment, Pop. Don't be shy.
Yeah,
I'll do it
nah,
for
I
you.
don't think I
Josh
need to read
McCulley
that one
says
out.
Pav might be the top 5 most handsome men born in Australia. There we go. It's Chris Hemsworth, maybe the other two Hemsworth, and then you, my friend.
Maybe top 5 million in Australia. I'll take that. Top 25%.
You're definitely in the money for the most handsome man in Australia.
Appreciate that.
By the way, speaking of in the money, any thoughts on the main event payout controversy, having played the main event yourself?
12 million to first, hey? I only saw the final table payouts, and a lot of people were
Actually,
upset
let me
that there was
pause you there, because
12.1.
we do have a situation brewing that I want to focus on. Ace Queen Open,
Oh.
pocket aces. I want to get your thoughts here. How is one to respond to this 3-bet?
Yeah, this is real tough. I think this is going to be a shove or a fold. I don't think you want to play many calls with offsuit hands, and
Goes
I think
in.
he just expects there to be enough bluffs. So I think it's fine, very fine.
King 7 deuce,
I was
queen
curious.
so
Oh,
far.
turns a queen, 2
Queen or
outs.
queen only. There's the peel. Oof, paint as well. Closed one, but no cigar. Picasso loses that one.
He ripped
Rodrigo
it.
doubles up.
He ripped it, didn't he? He didn't want to slowly peel that one. If you slowly peeled it and saw a paint card, oh, that's gonna be scary.
No
Yeah,
eliminations, of
not
course,
not
so far, but the chips have been flying about.
Yeah, they
And
have
so the
been.
short
Didn't want to
stack,
slow play
dive.
the aces. Decided to just call instead of decided to 3-bet instead of call. I was curious to see it, so working out for him. The stacks are quite close, you know. Not much has changed. They've swapped around a little bit, but still the same stack distribution. So we don't have a super big stack, and we don't really have a super short stack just yet.
How about the ICM pressure when there's two short stacks that are essentially exactly the same in chips? 540 there, Nicholas, 544 David Yan. Is it about waiting each other out ever? Or, considering the pay jump is the smallest it's going to be on the final table, sort of just ignore it. Just assume you had no ICM pressure being the shortest stack.
Yeah, I think as an equal short stack, you got to think about how good is it if you double up? How bad is it if you bust there as well? Because, even if David Young doubles here to 1 million, he's still going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players ahead of him. So he has to start getting it in here and not gambling, but he shouldn't be afraid of ICM just yet. But, like I said earlier, he's going to be a little bit tighter than Chip EV, but still playing like a pretty normal range and not being afraid to
And
get it in, as we saw the King Queen offsuit.
let's not forget the 6 bullets. That has to factor in as well. You're really not
Yeah,
looking at that next pay jump if you need to make it to 6th place to break even. So
yeah,
certainly that's going to be a
absolutely.
factor.
That's going to be playing on his mind, yeah.
Button folds. Time to see the small blind, big blind strategy between the two bigger stacks on the table here. Jack deuce off. Nothing to write home about. Does raise it up. 3.5x. Almost like an all-you-can-eat from the small blind. More and more standard these days. I feel like the poker world goes through different phases. Limping on the small blind versus the 3.5x in the small blind. Where do you lie in between those two?
Well, in this spot in particular, I would just fold the Jack deuce. Interesting 3-bet as well. So we got two big stacks of battling it out. I mean, they're more than 40 big blinds deep effective. So I just feel like it's a little bit too deep to be using a hand this week like Jack deuce. And A7 here, I think. I think calling is fine. I think it might be a little bit too strong to 3-bet bluff it. But maybe he decides to call a hand like ace eight and three bet ace deuce through ace seven. Interesting.
I
Three
do
bets it,
feel
takes it down.
sometimes when you end up small blind versus big blind, particularly when it happens for the first time or maybe early on in the final table, so much of it is not always dependent from a GTO perspective on your holding, but you're trying to sort of set the tone against your opponent, right? You're willing to give up that EV from your hand selection. Maybe just try to set the tone to make sure that your opponent knows that you're not going to be pushed around. I've certainly seen it on live tables where there's also the psychological experiment. Sometimes you're looking your opponent in the eye. Is that happening at the elite levels online, or you think these guys are just basing it on their hand selection?
I think so too. I think even at the elite players, I think they're still gonna take those things into account. I think they're gonna still be worried about like momentum and building this image really early. Caso ripping. Are we gonna see the call by ace 10? Very strong hands on the button here. However, if he calls and loses, he's gonna be amongst the short stack. So maybe he folds ace 10 and calls ace 10 suited. This is gonna be pretty close spot up against a relatively tight range. But as you can see, still beating King Jack suited, but he's not going to have the best equity there to call. So I think a nice fold and a nice shove.
Well, that's twice
But yeah,
Picasso's done that. Ace Queen off last time. King Jack suited this time.
yeah,
Definitely going to be in
two
the
good
ball's
hands
head.
though. Not getting super out of line. Perhaps thinking about three betting the Queen 10 suited here.
Under the gun open, sort of equal stacks. Has to be hesitant. Middle set there
Think
for Rodrigo. Certainly going his way.
another middle set with ace jack with Jackson ace jack this as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. Same flop too.
Yeah,
And Goku
might just see it.
might just have enough to sort of try and continue the backdoor flush draw, king high. Under the gun open though. Range is going to be pretty strong.
Goes for a
Into
pretty
and
big
does
bet there.
catch. Flush
Yeah,
draw.
goes for a big bet. 50% gets cold. Interesting.
Incredible. Things are getting spicy here. These two exactly even stacks. Things could really fly about
Yeah.
depending on what happens on this turn. Goku.
But perhaps Goku thinking this is a little bit weaker, big sizing Ace Jack deuce, and just thinks that he can float here and get away with it. But in this case, he was big sizing a monster. Goes for another big bet here. Unblocking top pair. We might see a check shove, but I think check call makes a lot more sense. You're still beating all the bluffs like flush draws and queen 10. However, you have to worry about under the gun having a hand like king queen and king 10. So maybe sometimes you shove here. You get yourself in a bit of a pickle once you call the flop, and on the turn now, you turn a dream card at club. How do you continue? Like this guy still has sets, he has top pair, he has two pair. So what do you do now? Just call and still hope you're ahead of some queen highs and flush draws?
Really, really tough spot. Really tough situation. Lets it go. Did probably realized
Yeah.
did not even have the implied odds to continue, try and realize his equity. Our poker there by Rodrigo. Did won the call, of course, but does pick up some nice close chips. 1.4 million now. Creeping up on that chip
Yeah.
lead. Alexei, who's been fairly snug, still does have the chip lead. 1.8 million. Three stacks around the 1.4, 1.5 billion mark. Four, excuse me. Nick as well with 1.6. So very interesting final table distribution. It's almost like six big stacks and three short stacks.
Yeah. And perhaps Goku just recognizing on the turn, okay, maybe I made a bad flop call. Let's not get crazy here. I'll just make the bad flop call and move on. And I think his read was, oh, big sizing that dry board. He's weak here. But when he continued the turn, he thinks, okay, maybe he's strong and I made a mistake. I'm not going to lose anymore. Okay, the ace deuce suited. We should just see a shove here from Lena against a big stack, and it should be a fold. Don't expect Rodrigo here in a small blind to call many offsuit hands. He made three bets here. But again, we want to stay away from too many offsuit hands versus tight positions. In an early position open in the small blind here, you want to be careful. And holy moly, just as I'm talking about picking suited hands, we see a three bet from the ace three offsuit. Strong. And it's going to be well
Wants to
timed.
3-bet. It just
Yeah, it's going to
works.
be very well timed.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Most of his 3-bets have gone through, especially against opponents that don't have the strongest of holdings. As soon as you're looking at a marginal holding, his opponents tend to fold. Let's pick up jacks now too, sort of in that momentum of having won the last hand. Likely to get resistance here. 6-4 off for the shortest stack. Let's it go. 2 pots in a row. 1.7 million now.
Profile picture as well. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Do you really want to 4-bet against that picture?
That's a great point. In case anybody in chat is joining us, having not seen the introduction to the final table, do a little zoom in, do a little, that 2-finger zoom in on YouTube on the profile picture. That is intense. That is the stare down of all stare down. So what do you think, Pav? Tension
Alexei,
building with no eliminations? Everybody's trying to look at least securing that next pay jump, an extra buy-in right there, more or less. The shorter these stacks get, there is sort of this unset tension that builds where everybody knows they have to wait. They just become more and more susceptible to ICM pressure from the chip leaders, do they not?
I think at this level, they're just playing it by ear. I don't think they're freaking out too much about like tension building here and like there being a one buy-in pay jump. I think they're just going to keep playing as such and get a feel for each other and see if anyone's getting out of line too much here.
Bad card there for Alexei. Bings the 10 on the turn, is now second pair. Good kicker against the top pair, same kicker for Konstantin Maslak. Might lead to some loss of chips here.
Should go check a lot here, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, if the board pairs or is like a middling card, how much do you want to call here with King 10? Because is the big blind defending a hand like 6-7 offsuit? So you got to start thinking about where are his bluffs coming from. Backdoor diamonds just got there. It's about 2/3, and King 10 no diamonds.
You do beat most wheel draws, which would be definitely in the big blind range. Did mention, of course, the 7-6, perhaps 8-7 suited as well. Big bet though. That's where the decision comes in. And of course, a pure bluff catcher here. Diamonds have come in. The 4 has paired on the river. Tough spot.
Yeah, quite tough. I wonder if betting a small size is better since Alexei should bet a lot of his queens on the turn, so he now has to start hero calling at 10. Oh, we have the mini game. So we're playing along here with the small blind with Jack 7 offsuit. I imagine we're going to be playing blind versus blind, and last time we saw him open the Jack deuce offsuit and the 3-bet coming from Ace 7. So
Correct.
this time he limps it.
Him this time. Maybe learned his lesson. No raise. Off to the flop. Flop the gut shot. 8-10 deuce, 2 clubs. Nice to check. We check calling, I assume, here. If he does indeed face a bet. Goes check, check. King on the turn. Not much to write home about in terms of the mini game, but might be time to try and take this one down.
Yeah, I think bluffing turn seems reasonable. Even betting flop is okay. Maybe he wants to bet the flop with the Jack of clubs instead. A little bit more equity. But I don't expect Jack High to have that much showdowns. I think betting turn is nice. You're going to check the flop with a lot of your king highs as well. So does he want to double delay now? And bet pot, bet half pot. What's his size here? Does he want to go to showdown? Don't think he expects to be ahead here with Jack High. Maybe he does. Maybe
Does
just
have
giving up with the
some
hand.
showdown
Doesn't want to
value.
bluff
It's
it.
against 100% range, or rather the range that would limp behind in the big blind. Goes check, check. Wins with the Jack High? Nah, pipped by the queen.
No.
Not the toughest of mini games, I must say. Usually I start feeling the
Yeah.
heat this time around. It goes checks on all streets.
Arrigo, the king queen. Is he going to find a 3-bet here? Nope. Doesn't like it versus under the gun. Yosip in the chat, where did you get the info on Egyptian stack? Poker News shows him having 1.3 million. This was just last night. At the end of the day, he ended with 1.7. I'm not sure what he's on right now. If it's if the main has started. Small blind not looking to get out of line there with the queen jack. He found the ace 3 offsuit earlier. Decides to slow down.
And what do we have in the
195,000
payouts?
to first.
That'd be a sweet, sweet payday. 195, almost approaching 196. I do have the remaining payouts here as well, almost 180. 32,000 as we discussed. You can see them on your screen as well. 176,000 to second, 137 to third, down all the way to all these players guaranteed 31.9k already. With us going a few levels with no elimination, does mean that the players are going to be pretty short once the eliminations do kick in. Do expect it to really start flying about pretty shortly. Look at the shortest stack here, David Yan looking at just a hair over 11 bigs. Maybe 12, in fact. Finds ace king. Exactly what he's looking for. 2x open.
Yeah, looks about 14 big blinds.
Well, yeah, now he's a lot more comfortable over the 500k chip. Lines at 17.5, 35k. Goku not getting frisky this time around. Last time around, did decide to 3-bet with the ace 9 off from the big blind when David opened.
Holding the jack 8 suited there is one of the big stacks. Again, in this spot, it's like, how much pressure can he really apply? There's 1, 2, 3 stacks behind him with over 1 million, and the other 2 quote-unquote shorter stacks have 22 and 30 big blinds. So he probably thinks, okay, jack 8 suited not great here. Maybe I'll make my bottom jack 9 suited. And interesting. Solid defend with a suited hand. Leads on the 7-5-3. Picasso with the flush draw. Does he want to start raising now? Pretty good hand to bluff with. You know, you're not going to have much showdown value. That being said, if you just call and a 9 rolls off, it's really disguised, and the big blind will bet the 9 pretty often. But I think you probably want to just call here with more like ace 4 of clubs, ace 6 of clubs, king 6 of clubs, and raise with more just naked flush draws. Very cool to see a lead on this flop, though, because the big blind, wow. The big blind shouldn't have a heap of 2 pairs on this board. He probably won't lead set. So very interesting. We have a raise and a call. Let's see if we see another small donk bet here from the big blind, because it's a great card for him. He does.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
What a buy-in Picasso is in right now.
Yeah, and what's so beautiful about this donk bet is that he gets value from flush draws, and the thing is, like, in position is not going to bet this turn too much. He's going to check back a lot of his flush draws. He's going to check a lot of his overpairs. So when you donk small, you get to at least get calls from them or fold them out. You don't just get, you don't let them have a free card. And wow, what a sick river here. Obviously, Rodrigo's going to shove now, and yeah, Picasso with top pair. What do you do? What do you do here? You have a club, which is probably not amazing, and now 8-6 just got there. So what a spot. What are you doing here, Vidur, with Queen 9? What do you think?
It's very tempting to just click the call button. You do have top pair, but that donk bet on the turn is what might be giving away hints of an absolute monster on the other side. So your top pair is essentially, may as well be ace high. It's essentially a bluff catcher. And the question is, you're going to be the shortest stack if you fold. Sometimes, even with the elite players, that plays into your mind. You're just like, screw it. Like, I'll either have like 1.5 million in chips or just be out. Very important to find the discipline. does have the clubs, does block a lot of the flush draws his opponent could be bluffing with. I believe he's good enough to find the fold here. There we go. Does do it exactly as I said.
Yeah,
Very
really
impressive
impressive.
fold.
Wow.
Not easy. These guys make it look easy, but it is not easy at all.
That
I
is
mean,
really impressive. He
talk
kept
about
one of the
discipline.
best rivers. Like, he probably calls on a queen, folds on a 9 because 8-6 gets her as well. But yeah, very, very strong fold. He's getting a great price there and still finds the fold.
Yeah. I agree with you about the queen because you might be beating, over pairs to the board on the turn and who might just be essentially putting you in irrespective. But with that 9, it does look like you made top pair. You beat some of the dongs that could have been just doing it as like maybe second pair to the board. And very, very impressive fold. Is the shortest stack now under 10 bigs. Going to need to fight his way back in this tournament, but he's given himself the chance to be able to do that. That's what's most important.
Lena want to defend all ace-x here versus a big stack. I imagine he does. Maybe he finds a small 3-bet. Oh, just folds the a7. Interesting. So, like, that's another. I think if the big stack there, if there were a lot of short stacks and he was like a strong, strong big stack, we'd see a defend from a7. But I think Lena's still recognizing that the opening range is going to be fairly tight or fairly normal. So he wants to defend a little bit tighter there. So really, a really cool spot to see him fold.
We
I
had
think it's like
Igor in
such
chat
minor,
saying,
minor spots.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Igor in chat was talking about how they wanted to see the 10 of clubs on the river, giving the flush and the full house. People always just want to see violence.
Well, here they go. They've got it. Ace Queen versus Queens. Lena all in with 3 outs. He has some hearts as well. I don't think I saw any aces folded, but could have went by me. Down to
Needs the
3
bag
outs,
Greenstein.
6%.
Does not hit. We do lose our first player. 31,900 US dollars. GG. We're down to 8. Fighting it out for that first place. 195,000 on the table.
Yeah. David Yarn just throwing in the Jack 10 of hearts for the lols. And I think everyone just breathing a sigh of relief there. One of the strongest players in the world. Lena leaving in 9th position. I think everyone's very, very pleased with that one.
Absolutely. And perhaps most of all, Picasso, of course, down to under 10 bigs. That's
Yep.
a fade jump. Still in the mix to try and claw his way back. David Yan, of course, you mentioned, has been the shortest stack for a while. Hey, getting closer to that 6th place finish he needs to break even on his 6 bullets. Down to only needing to fill the gap of 2 bullets. Guaranteed 40,000 USD already.
So K Maslike here, I think he's going to be a little bit happy that we see an open from the hijack with 9-8 suited because, if he decided to open the ace-4 blind versus blind and then get 3-bet again, he may have gotten out of line after facing another 3-bet. So fortunately, he doesn't have to get in that spot. We see a healthy size 3-bet here from the big blind and Rodrigo with 9-8 suited. Let's see if he wants to continue. Does he think he's deep enough to make this a worthy call? We have a min raise, and then he makes it about almost 9 big blinds here. Calls and gets a beautiful flop. Unfortunately, he's not going to get any action just yet.
Yeah, about the worst flop for 9-8 of diamonds, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I think this one's going to go in the direction of this ball. By the way, what are we calling Bruno Souza, of course, from Brazil, to play with Pocket Kings right now? That is a long screen name. What are we calling him here? We should settle on one thing, because it's too long for me to say straight up, that's for sure.
I agree. Is it
SPT?
the pool? We get the pool is nice, I think. Goes for a half-pot size bet. That's a little bit bigger there, which is cool to see. Unblocking top pair, thinking he's going to get called a lot for one street. So I like that size. Interesting. I was thinking a quarter pot, but goes for a bigger size there, which is cool because, he imagines the range he gets called by is going to be really tight pre-flop. So going bigger, unblocking a lot of good hands that can continue seems nice. Nines, flopping middle set here.
Wow, set again. We've seen a lot of sets today. A lot of middle sets, to be precise. Jacks twice, middle set.
Right.
Pocket Kings right there. Pocket Nines right now.
Yeah, K-Mass like not looking to bluff ace high, just looking to go to showdown. And what does Goku do here with nines on the 7? Because he decides to bet it. Okay, so he wants to bet to get called by some ace jack, some pocket eights, some ace 7 suited. It doesn't want to get too tricky there and check again. He gives a free card to a lot of hands that want to check, like 5s and 6s and 8s, ace 8 suited. That's well played from both. Does King 8 suited want to go for it? Does he think the range is wide enough to put it in here? I don't think he will, but it'd be cool to see what he does with King 9 suited. King 10 suited, I think he certainly shoves. King 9 and King 8 suited are interesting here because you have no FOD equity, but you're up against a very wide range. And the pool here, like what's his worst hand? The pool's probably opening every king, every ace, all the suited jacks, all the suited queens.
All
So
pairs.
how wide is his offsuit range here? Does he open a hand like 7-8 offsuit, 6-7 offsuit? Wow, he just calls. Wow. I did not expect this. Very cool to see. Now he's going multi-way.
He's
Very,
basically
very
dead on
interesting.
the flop here, and he's going to be down to about 5 bigs or so.
Don't expect to see any checking here from DePaul on the button. Both players connect okay with this board. Maybe small blind has some like Jack 10, Queen Jack suited there. And
Takes
the
the turn
call.
as well. Lexi
Yeah, should
now
see
going
him
dead.
continue betting.
With
And
this hand, by the way, considering the way it's about to go, we're going to have finally on this table an out and out chip leader in the form of DePaul, who has been the most active player on the table. Is now going to end up with at least 2.4 million in chips. Let's see what occurs on the turn here. Lexi has been the chip leader for a while and has been pretty snug. Now has top pair weak kicker. This is obviously a spot to continue barreling for value. Question is, Alexi, you going to be feeling comfortable with that 10? King, Queen, of course, gets there with the Broadway.
I think we should just be folding ace-3 here. I know it's easier said than done, just looking at the hands here, but it's a card that is so good for the button. He's going to turn straights. He's going to turn 2-pair. He's going to have a lot of equity with quite a few of his draws, like flush draws and that. Like he's going to have all the suited queens, all the suited kings. He's probably going to open like 4-5 of clubs as well. So you're going to be faced with a lot of tough river decisions. I think we might even prefer a hand like Queen Jack over Ace 3. Maybe I could be wrong with that one. But yeah, interesting spot. I guess the good thing here for Alexi is that if he calls turn, folds river, he's still got a nice stack. It's a spot he can afford to put some chips in the middle. And wow, the pool checking back the river, worried about some flushes, and there's still some king queen in the big blinds range there. So interesting spot to see how thin he wants to go for value there. But decides to just check back 2-pair, which might mean that he has a lot of bluffs in that river. If he's only going to value bet flushes and straights, interesting.
Well, 2.5 million now for DePaul after that 2-pair hand. Clear chip leader on this table. He actually had been fairly snug. Loses a few chips, but still comfortably a middle stack. And Picasso, the man to watch. 5 big blinds. Very likely to be the next person all in. 40,000, of course, guaranteed to everyone. The next pay jump takes you up to 51,270 USD.
Debet and call seems very standard. Good ace high. A board that Nick shouldn't be getting check raised much on. Let's see if he wants to bet this queen very much. It's a good and a not a good card. So like, I expect the big blind to continue hands like king queen offsuit still, and a lot of ace highs. So does Nick prefer to see like a 9 or a 10 instead of a queen? He likes that he blocks king queen, I'm sure. Takes it
That's
down.
represented. Takes it down. Well played.
Yeah, I think those spots are very interesting because both players are kind of blocking each other's cards there. Nick there, like, does he really like having a jack? Because he wants big blind to call with hands like ace jack. So yeah, interesting spot with how much like he wants to bet the river there if he's called even, or if he's always giving up. Well, unfortunately for David here, he's just gonna see no action with the jacks.
Could probably take it. Not a bad result. Could have the big blind coming in. Let's to comfortably survive another round with that 165,000 chip stack with Picasso looming over everyone.
Yep, four big
Obviously the
blinds there for
stacks.
Picasso.
Exactly, and this is a spot where Rodrigo can pretty much shove range. There we go.
Yep.
Gets it in, maximum ICM pressure. 4 big blind of Picasso. David says you suck.
Yeah, every
Tough
suited
spot to
hand
be
you
in.
love in that spot. Yeah, probably can shove almost your entire range, so. I think you probably want to be careful with hands like 7 deuce, 7-3, 6-4 offsuit. There's really weak hands because although David's going to call relatively tight because he's going to get a pay jump very often, also have to recognize that is one pay jump worth more than doubling up and getting right back in the tournament? Because he only has 12 big blinds now, so I don't expect David to fold a hand like King 10 suited, King Jack offsuit. A hand like King 10 offsuit is quite interesting. He might be calling that one. So if he's calling a hand like
Especially
King 10
considering,
offsuit,
yeah, we just saw the Jack 7 shove. Considering you know how wide your opponent is going to be shoving, as you correctly said, that one buy and pay jump might not be worth giving himself the chance to win the tournament, which, let's face it, David Yan is definitely looking to do. Not just because he always is, but because of his 6 bullets fired as well. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, not a spot for Rodrigo to get carried away, but Jack 7 suited was always going to
yeah. And not to mention, like, every other stack of the table is so deep. I'm sure if there were like a few more stacks around the same level of David there, he'd play a lot tighter. But I just don't think David's going to be too scared about holding off there with a pretty normal range. Like King 10 offsuit, I don't think is going to be a snap fold for him. So yeah, he's
But
not going
we
to
did
face much ICM pressure.
we did see the open with the aces, the beautiful aces for Goku there. Defended with the 8-6 off by Konstantin Maslak. And check folded on the flop. We move on to the next one. 10-9 suited now this time for K Maslak. All with Jack 9 off. These guys have had some interesting small versus big situations. Saw the 3.5
Yeah, they have.
get 3 bet early on. After that, it just went check all streets. And we were actually playing the mini game with the Jack 7 this time around. Both catch a piece. Middle pair, backdoor diamonds, or Maslak. The open ender for DePaul. Could be fireworks. All a raise. Pretty much the only 2 options here. And DePaul has shown aggression throughout. There we go. 3x is it. Starts putting the
Interesting.
the pressure on. Konstantin probably cannot get away from it here. Let's continue. Catches the backdoor. Straight draw. Now can't chop it with the jack. 6 would be a disaster, of course.
Yeah, what a turn. He's always going to get another street out of him. It's interesting to see the flop raise because he didn't raise pre-flop, so he won't have ace 10. He won't have aces, 10s, and 8s. Ace 8 offsuit he may have in his range, but he's also going to raise that a lot pre-flop. So, yeah, very interesting. Without a club as well, whereas K Mass, like, he might limp a lot of his really good hands there. I think the range advantage on this board actually goes to the small blind. So, surprising to see a flop raise without a club here, but also like not crazy, of course. He has an open ender. But what a turn. He's always going to get called again here. And then, yeah, this should just be probably a check fold a lot for K Maslak. He's going to have trips on a river. He's going to have some boats. It's also going to be a pretty under-bluffed spot. Like, if you're big blind here, can you imagine bluffing any hand on this river? This river's so horrible for you to bluff with, so yeah, can you just? I personally can't think of many hands to bluff with in this spot. I guess in theory you still want to use a little bit of flush draws because you're still repping 2 pair plus on the flop or like good top pairs. But for the most part, I imagine the big blind's repping 2 pair plus on the flop. You're not going to raise a hand like ace 5 that much. Ace jack's going to raise pre-flop, so
It did,
yeah,
of course,
very very
go
interesting.
go limp and check behind from the small blind, big blind pre-flop. That might be
Yeah.
part of the decision making that, Maslak is going to have much fewer aces if he did not raise the small blind, considering he did attempt to raise the small blind early on in this final table. Might be one of the few factors that might be playing into this hand, such that DePaul might still take this line with bluffs, hoping that his opponent does not have the ace. He does make the
Wow,
call.
small bet.
Plays it
What a
off.
beautiful size. What a beautiful size. Yeah, I wonder if he
Absolutely
thinks going
monster
all
pot.
in there. Like maybe he thinks going all in just isn't going to get called by enough, like ace deuce suited there, for example. So yeah, beautiful size. Like if you think people are just going to fold too much with their ace X on a river and, only call with better for the most part, then that is a fantastic size. Oh, folding there, knowing he has no pot equity and giving Picasso a chip up. David Yarn, not too happy with that one.
Yeah, of course, now DePaul being the out-and-out chip leader wants to have this extremely short stack of Picasso around for as long as possible. They can continue to bully the table. I mean, he's been doing it since the start of the final table. Has been the most active player by far. Lots of free bets, the most aggressive. Exactly the kind of player you want to have around is the 4 big blind stack of Picasso. Look at this, 8 deuce. Just let it go. I wouldn't have been surprised if he actually started applying pressure with that, considering
Yeah,
Picasso's been
same.
fairly
I
snug.
Yeah, I think the property in that spot is that he recognizes, okay, do I really want to go too crazy here? The big blind has over 40 big blinds. He's still going to be defending pretty wide. Maybe I should be just a little bit tighter here. But I think, if the blinds had 30 big blinds or less, I think he's going to open pretty much everything.
There we see it. Queen 8 suited, good enough to take it down. As long as
Yep,
Picasso is
beautiful hand.
around, this might be how the story
Absolutely.
goes for a while.
I am going to take a quick bathroom break. Vidur, I'll be back in a
Go
sec.
for it.
You take over.
I'm still looking at chat, hoping to hear from Jeff Gross and his continued deep run. Not to be so far. Keep us posted, Jeff. Rooting for you as always. Make sure you wish good luck to Jeff Gross in chat, guys. He's running deep in the main right now, day 5. Super exciting stuff. Once you're done with the GG Millions live stream, along with us, go check that out. Whatever platform you desire. So still 8 players left. Pocket 7s now for K Maslak. Was one of the bigger stacks. Did lose a monster pot there with the 10-9 suited. Pocket 7s are on the gun. Tough spot. Let's not forget Picasso. A hair over 4 bigs. Makes that difficult discipline fold with the pocket 7s. Picasso is going to get this one, and ace 10 suited is going to be good enough. It's going to be off to some sort of a race. Jack 9 is going to have to call this off. After taking his time, but surely. There we go. Gets it in. Two live ones for DePaul to knock out Picasso. And on the flop. Great start for Picasso. Jack and Jack only on the river. Will crush the dreams of Picasso, but if it happens, 420k now into his stack. Above 10 bigs. Great result. I doubt DePaul is even affected by that hand. He was incentivized to keep Picasso around. 415k still leaves Picasso the shortest stack. Ace 6 off. Time to see how crazy he wants to go. There we go. The old 2.25x open with the ace rack under the gun. That's a big stack bully poker right there. Welcome back, Pav. We saw Picasso double up with the ace 10 suited.
Oh, wow.
Against DePaul, of course, but that does not stop DePaul from opening under the gun with the ace 6 off. And I suspect this does go through with the exception of a king or a jack on the flop. There we see it. Beautiful flop for the ace 6. Pretty easy for DePaul to have his way with the table right now. Man from Brazil, Bruno Souza. Top players in the world, of course, as are most of the players at this final table.
Small bet. Should be very effective. King Jack just not. Yes, it's a very wide range against a big stack, but can't float too many paired boards, especially without a suited hand. So good fold, I think. Wow. We should see obviously a 3-bet from queens here pretty often. So I guess the question is, what is Goku's threshold here for going all in? Because they are about 40 big blinds effective. What do you want to do? 40 big blinds here facing a 3-bet. Well, I imagine Nick's 3-betting range is going to be like he probably 3-bets 10's a good amount and always jack. So I don't expect Goku to shove heaps here. He's going to get it in, against maybe 10's, but they could even fold. He's going to get it in dead a lot. So I think he's probably just going to call a lot in this spot. It's for a
Yeah,
healthy sized 3-bet.
you talked about flatting ace king almost in the first orbit of this tournament. Sort of a similar perspective, right? You don't want to be essentially flipping, even if you are against a hand that would call off ace king, for instance. So it's nice to actually just call as you predicted, and effectively Goku gets a favorable flop. He wanted to see aces and kings on the flop so he can get away from this hand easily. Queen's not too happy
Yeah,
either with this board, about the worst as it gets.
interesting you see bets in this board. It was for a pretty small size. I thought it would have been check check and just check down a lot there.
Probably pretty relieved to see Goku fold there, but what could have been, of course, with a low board. Nick might never know
Right.
until he sees the stream, of course.
Yep. Goku pretty fortunate there. Picasso not wanting to defend the queen six as the short stack, wanting something a little bit better.
How's ace
And
9
don't
off or
expect
better?
David to open. David should be letting this go.
Oh,
And
my
it
apologies. My
should be.
attention went straight to Picasso with the ace 9. I suspect this is getting in no matter what the action is. With very
Yeah,
few
I wonder
exceptions.
if he shoves. Yeah, this. Oh no, he's
Wow.
gonna fold now. Yeah, versus
6x
half
open.
stack. Yeah, because he knows Maslak's committed now, so ace nine's not a great hand versus pretty strong range. Not gonna have great equity, so
What do you think about that sort of fake all-in from Maslak there? Essentially not caring about that next pay jump and wanting to essentially pick up those blinds with the king-queen off
yeah.
ace position.
I think the main property there is K Maslak gives himself an opportunity to fold if two players go all in. So if Picasso and Alexi went all in, he has a pretty easy fold. He's going to be dead against Alexi very often. So yeah, I think he saves himself a pay jump, and there are some hands you want to raise cold there. So I imagine most of his range is going to be putting in half his stack just to commit himself, but also give him room to fold and get a pay jump if two players go all in. Never fold if one player goes all in. And trips here for Goku.
Dream spot. Defend the queen 3 suited. Flop the trips. The chip leader and the most aggressive player on this table does c-bet, and a very surprising check raise here. Pretty standard to just continue by calling and let your opponent keep bluffing, considering DePaul is the most aggressive opponent on this table. Perhaps he thinks DePaul
Yeah,
might play back against a check raise.
potentially. But I agree with you. I think check call's a lot nicer. Obviously, check raising trips here. Oh
Does play
wow, he's
back.
been 3-bet. Amazing. Yeah, I would have went towards just calling because we're up against a very, very wide range. Like 6-7 offsuit, like even 4-5 offsuit is probably in there for the big stack, and he can just fire on a lot of turns. Wow,
And
he
the click
4-bets
back
him
4-bet
small.
on the flop. That is awesome. It is interesting. I mean, what can DePaul really have that would actually 3-bet on that flop? Obviously, monsters tend to just like call and act behind. So it is one of those battles of I know that you don't have it. In this
Yep.
case, of course, Goku did have it. Maybe went a bit too far with that 4-bet. That might have been the spot to actually just call, let DePaul do some more damage. But as it happens, does take down a nice spot.
He also, that's also a part of the meta, maybe the polls thinking, no way he's going to 4-bet with trips here. I'm going all in.
Yeah, I've seen crazier things. The leveling wars are
Yeah.
real, and chip leader is exactly the person you want to do this against. Of course, Goku hasn't seen cards up coverage like we have. As we get into a mini game, right as say cards up coverage, we don't have cards up coverage anymore. It's time for the mini game. We're playing alongside David Yan, who has been a short stack for a while. Jack 7 suited on the big blind.
Come on,
Could
David.
even get a walk here. Might be the shortest mini game ever. Seems like Rodrigo has some plans.
I imagine
3x
David will
open.
defend here. Suited hands, decent connectivity. I'm very curious to see what David would do with a hand like Jack 6 suited. You know, at least Jack 7 can still flop a straight. Flops middle pair. And the 10 is pretty good for David because I don't expect Rodrigo to be raising hands like King 10, Queen 10, Jack 10, 10 9, 10 8. Those hands like to limp a lot. So this is quite cool. And also, like, even like King 10 could just shove pre-flop, doesn't need a 3 exit. So the 10's actually a very good card, I think, for David here. He's more worried about hands like 10 4, 10 5, 10 6. So pretty safe for him. However, facing a turn bet here, oh, it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it?
I mean, look at the SPR. It's just a hair over one. We
Mm,
had the 20% pot C bet on the flop from Rodrigo, the pre-flop raiser, excuse me. Now to continue 120k into 400k. David Yan being asked a question. You want to commit to this hand for your tournament life? Does
yeah.
continue, has 322 behind, 0.5 SPR. Rodrigo, is this the spot to three barrel? I mean, he can easily be representing or having overpairs here. Kind of the story he's
Yep.
telling with 3x open.
Yep.
Yeah, not surprising he puts David to the test. Wow, talk about a mini game. Talk about being in a sick spot. Harder than it looks when you can't see the cards. I mean, 7 with a jack. What are you to do here? Is this the spot to put your tournament life on the line?
Well, I was thinking fold turn. I don't know how good it is to have a jack here because we want Rodrigo to have hands like Jack 8, Jack 9, Jack 4. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like maybe we just prefer to call with hands that have a 10 or a flush draw or 7 8, 7 9 suited. They're having a gut shot with it, whereas the Jack is not great. I think fold turn is better. I think it's a good fold here. I wanna see what he had.
Oh no, don't tell me we don't get to see. No.
Oh, I need to know.
Guys on the team, just send us a DM. What did he have, please?
Yeah,
We want to be able to
please
tell the world.
send us a message.
Well, in case you want to feel the pain, David, no doubt, would be feeling right now. That's what it feels like. Never finding out what your opponent had. That is a tough, tough spot to be in. But David, perhaps making the right decision to preserve his chips, try to find a better spot than that. Does take the advice that you were suggesting, Bob. Let it go.
Yeah, we've just been DM'd and Rodrigo was bluffing. We don't know what he had, but he was
Incredible.
bluffing.
That's
Wow.
awesome. What a result.
Wow. I'm guessing it was a hand like Jack 8, Jack 9.
Oh
Oh,
my
he had
word.
8-3
8-3
offsuits.
off.
Jeez,
8-3
hello.
off. Just triple barrel against the short stack and gets it through on the 10-7-6-5 king board, I believe.
And we've just
Great
seen a
stuff.
knockout. I missed it after reading that DM. Oh, wait, no, we haven't. Sorry, that was Lena. He got knocked out about 30 minutes ago. I totally forgot
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
right.
I
No,
was like,
Picasso came
that
close.
was
He
too
was all
quick.
in. And of course, did double up. And now David is the shortest stack, even shorter than Picasso. Leaves himself the typical 2 big blinds behind. Commits himself. Ace 10 off to get it in. And we're off to the races. Ice versus Ace 10 off the chip leader. Ace for a 10 to knock out David. Looking good so far. Time to peel the river. 86% to double up. Oh, the Barry Greenstein. We lose David to a sick river. Does go away.
That's
8th
rough.
place, $40,000 in cash. However, what we heard, he did fire 6 bullets, but GG, sir. Great performance. One of the best players all around and does have a great finish on this final table. Hard luck there. I'm a
Yeah,
bit sad now that we actually revealed that Rodrigo was bluffing with the HP. That's going to be a painful one to hear, but that's just poker,
yeah.
unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. Is painful sometimes. Why we do it, perhaps. For the massacre. Jam with the ace queen suited from the button. Pretty easy spot to get in.
Another sigh of relief for all the players. You know, they have 2 of the strongest players in this field, David Yarn and Lena, getting knocked out. First 2 knockouts. Very interesting. So Picasso with another ladder as well. He's loving it. In 20, 25, 26 big blinds here Well, Alexei decides to just call the ace-8 suited. I wonder what he does with a hand like ace-queen suited there if he's always going all in. Because he has two really short stacks. Let's see if he wants to float. How wide does he want to float here versus a big stack with some pretty heavy ICM coming into play now? Decides ace-8 suited is good enough. Gets a dream turn card that DePaul wants to bet pretty much always with his entire range would be my guess. And let's see if Alexei wants a check shove. I expect a lot of turn bets here. Does Alexei want to play a jamming range on this turn?
Should you be jamming against an opponent that is extremely aggressive, or do you want to continue with something as good as top pair, top kicker, try to string them along even further? Considering you're committing anyway, the board isn't the most draw heavy necessarily.
Yeah, one of the good things, however, about him being so aggressive, wow, really surprising turn check.
On the river.
Wow.
Dirty.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the good things about a wide turn betting range is that the Paul can still have a hand like 8-9 offsuit, so he can check shove ace-8 and still get called by a worse hand since his range is so wide. But wow, very surprising turn check. And hits the river. I was way off with that one. I thought he was always betting that turn just to get fold from better king highs, ace highs.
All betting. Wow, 1.5x overbet for value. What great timing.
Wow.
Gets the insta-call there from the second pair off Alexei, who's going to get the bad news. Default is just running over this table right now. It is a little bit due to card distribution, but my word, the aggression and the timing on those big bets is just perfection. Extremely well played there by Default to make the most of a relatively dirty, lucky situation, but that's how you do it, folks. What a great bet.
Alexei probably thinking, how do you have a 10 here? Wouldn't you just bluff the turn a lot? But yeah, I think the interesting part about that hand is the turn check. I think Alexei kind of is confused, doesn't know how to break down his range in the river. ABG, always be greedy, says Jason Parker. On that occasion, the aggressive image on a big stack working out very well. Casso getting it through as per usual.
Well, look at that.
Just surviving. That's all he does. That's what he knows best.
He jumped twice with 5 big blind stack. That is incredible.
Yep.
Still hovering around that mark.
Every player guaranteed 51,000 right now, playing for 195k. Nick with the Queen 9 suited versus under the gun. Or sorry, the low jack from the pool. Let's see how wide he wants to float here. I don't expect him to go anywhere with a hand like Queen Jack and Queen 10 of clubs. But what does he do with Queen 9 of clubs? Does he check raise here? No, he just folds it. A little bit too weak for him. And the Paul folding 8-6 offsuit. I thought we would have continued seeing a lot of aggression there with 3 really short stacks.
I was thinking the same thing. And sometimes it is about sort of retaining some level of credibility with your opens.
Absolutely.
You have a weak hand and it's under the gun, so those 3 factors combined, he decides to let this one go. But man, he's playing the rush, he's playing his stack, he's of course making those overbets in those spots where he knew he would trip up his opponent. Really putting on a clinic right now, Default. Clear chip leader, 4 million in chips, good for 80 bigs. Probably 40% of all the chips in play. Extremely well played.
Another chip up for Picasso.
Up to 7.5 bigs now. One of those went in on the big blind. That's 7-5 suited, pocket sixes. Or Nick. Is this a defense with his chip
I would defend. Yeah, I think he's going to defend. He wants to defend like pretty much, wow, okay. I would have defended personally, but good fold. He would have got it in pretty dead there against sixes. I just think perhaps he's thinking Alexei there, who's also a short stack. He wants to defend a little bit tighter. But I would have defended most suited hands with good connectivity. I'd probably fold.
Addicted. He's gotten addicted to those pay jumps with the short stack.
Like yeah, he's like, what does it matter? I'm going to get a pay jump anyway. I may as well fold. I don't need to defend here. He's too confident.
He did have that small blind defense with the king 8 suited, but ever since then, he's really picked his spots. I mean, sometimes card distribution, got it in the queen 10, no contest, king jack suited, no contest. And then, as you said, when he would have been fairly dead with the 7-5 suited against the pocket sixes, just lets it go. Really good radar so far. Kings or the short stack against the ace king. Dream situation. Doesn't need to overthink it, as this is probably going in no matter what. Hands played themselves. Time to see if the kings can hold.
30% of the time, Picasso's getting a pay jump.
Oh my word.
Oh,
Right on the flop. That 30% coming in.
One out.
Wow, Pav, how'd
Surely
you do
not.
it? Just called it. The one outer not to be on the river. Alex, he takes it well with the confused Elky emoji. GG, sir. Was the chip leader, did run into a 6 spot there. And he did have the ace 8, lost a chunk of chips, and unfortunately gets the bad beat. Kings versus ace king. Walks away with 51,270, I believe, as we're down to the final 6. Everybody guaranteed 65,000, and yeah, let's just shine the light once again on Picasso. Man, those pay jumps with the under 10 BB stack, that takes some skill.
Oh, Rodrigo 3-betting ace queen there. I was curious to see if he wants to call with that one or not, but just thinking, gonna 3-bet versus big stack. If he 4-bets me, so be it, I'll let it go.
Oh, yeah, there is that sort of unsaid rule of second in chips not battling the first in chips, but when you know how light the first in chips is opening and you have ace queen, you have to sort
Another
of
jam and a call. Gets it in good with ace 7 versus ace 3. 7 kicker ahead right now. Nick needing a 3. They got it all in pre for 10 big blinds effective.
Oof, 9's not going to do
7 holding.
7 plays. Much
So,
needed double up there
Picasso.
for Constantine.
Really expecting a 3 after Picasso was just looking for another ladder.
That would have been sick. Just taking a look at the chip distribution now, sort of resembling what we're more used to. One clear chip leader, clear second in chips, sort of a couple of middle stacks after, and a very, very clear short stack, which means the chip leader can once again put crazy ICM pressure. Uses now for Rodrigo. Interesting spot. We're now in a 6-max game. And the gun +1 is the same as the hijack. Use is good enough to open. Gets that one through. Of course, Picasso was the man in the big blind, so much more incentive to open, knowing that you're very likely to take it down. Of course, you don't mind a shove from the short stack and take the flip. Oh my word, ace-7 versus queens. This is going
oh my word, indeed.
Picasso survive another all-in situation. 6-4 deuce, nothing to write home about. Some backdoor straight draws. Not to be ace and an ace only on the river. Otherwise, we will lose our 6th place finisher. Jack wraps that up. GG to Picasso 98. 6th place for 65,600 and change. And Goku now sort of tying that second in place with 2.26 million in chips. 84,000 guaranteed to the next player out. 5-handed. As we suspected, Pav, things are moving quickly. Once we got that second elimination, because of all the play that had happened at the previous blind level, these players are getting in pretty light. Now, 2 short stacks left, of course. Big blind 50,000, so the 20 big blind chip came Aslak. The 3-bet from the 25 big blind stack of Nick takes this one down.
Grady, this is not live. We're on a 30-minute delay, I believe.
For anybody joining us who is not familiar with the GG Millions, I mean, these players are the best of the best, the elite top players of the online world. They're just battling it out. 104 entries to this tournament. 10,000 USD is the buy-in. 195,997 to the first place finish. These guys are, as I said, the best of the best. They've had some fantastic results in this season, which is this year so far already. We did lose David Yan, who had over 1 million accumulated. A lot of these players have between 100 and 500K in season 3, that is 2023 earnings alone.
Yeah, and
Need to
guys,
really
don't forget we have linked at the top of the chat the hands up link. If you can guess the final winning hand of the tournament, you can be in to win the jackpot. Click that link, open up the Reddit page, and comment your answer. Top of the chat, it's linked. Good opportunity, free money.
money, best kind. Hey, how about free money in the form of having aces against
Right?
dealer open off the chip leader? Just free bet, take it down as
Unfortunately,
expected.
just no action, unfortunately. But you know, the pool was 3 betting on 10-3-3s, so you never know.
That's right. By the way, Pavel, we might as well input our bids for the hands up game. What do you think, the winning hand here?
I'm gonna say the winning hand is Queen 10 offsuit.
Okay, interesting. I think, I play heads up sit and goes a lot, and I think just looking back on my own experience, aces obviously get it in fairly commonly. So I'll just go with an ace deuce. Keep things spicy, do not make it too easy. It's always a hard fought victory when you win with ace deuce.
Yeah, that's a safe bet. Probably should have just went for some ace highs when heads up gets to around 20 big blinds effective. A lot of ace highs going in against pairs.
Yeah, I'm usually the guy taking those moonshot underdog bets, but I don't know. You went with the queen 10, so I just thought I'd balance it out, take the sort of favorite there. So, guys,
Yeah, I
input your
think
bids as well.
a good strategy for people looking to win a piece of that jackpot is probably just pick a lot of pocket pairs and ace highs, maybe some suited kings. So good luck, guys. The link is pinned at the top of the chat. Go submit your answers. Mini game.
There we go. We see only K Maslak's cards, King 8 off hearts in the small blind. We've had a lot of small blind versus big blind mini games. Some of them have gotten really spicy. The last one in particular, I'm thinking Rodrigo bluffing with A3 off. Let's see what happens this time around. Limp from the small blind. Because I've had plenty of limp small blind versus big blind situations. Bottom pair on a very wet board for Maslak. Player from Russia. Has been snug, has been checking in these spots in similar situations before this. See how it chooses to continue here. Let's take the same approach. Probably relieved to see no action on the flop there. Can feel a lot more comfortable with the 10 on the turn. Pair might likely be the best hand. We want to sort of put in a bet for value against all the draws. No, decides to check. Willing to check call here. Of course, Paul has been the most aggressive opponent, is the chip leader. I want to get check raised off your hand. Easy continue here, Pav?
I think so, and I think the turn is a nice check. It's not a bad hand to bet either, but against the big stack, probably being a little bit tighter and playing a heavy check is good. But you know, if he bets the turn, he still gets called by some ace highs, worse A to X. So I think either way is fine. Probably lean towards a check as well myself. And river is interesting here.
One of those rivers that is almost like a must bluff for DePaul if he does not have a hand with showdown value. And Maslak, of course, knows this and is going to be a 6 spot. I mean, it's essentially a heads up hand, small blind versus big blind. You have to make a pair, as they say, but this board is as wet as it gets. 4 to a straight, of course. Trips with the 10s. Does let it go at 10-5, turns out. Great fold there by the King 8. Very interesting hand. 10-5 suited. Did make the trips on the turn there. That was a fun one. Fun mini game. Hope you guys played along. And hope you guys see how difficult the game of poker against elite players is.
Yeah,
Much
wide
more easier to
ranges.
be
Blind versus blind is always very tough.
very tough. Yeah. What do they call it? The common ninjas, the common GPO. I forget the common sharks. Much more easier to be that when the cards are face up.
K Mass like flooding the ace 10 offset here off around 18 or 19 big blinds. Very interesting spot. Quite keen to see what he does here. I'm not sure if it's a good 3-bet or a good call, maybe just a fold. Very tough one here, I think, with like an offsuit hand. You are one of the short stacks though, who goes for the call. and decides to
Yeah, he
start
was.
bluffing on Jack 6-4. Obviously got the backdoor flush draw. He blocks some backdoor spade draws, so he can start putting pressure on ace queen and ace king on the turn if it gets check called on the flop. So nice bluff there.
Yeah, very nice. Gets it through and is essentially almost tied for being the shortest stack, along with Nick on his right. So DePaul still the clear chip leader, 3.5 million. Do some quick math here. Has about 30% of the chips in play. Two middle stack, two short stack. Of course, we're five-handed. Those blinds come fast and quick. Nowhere to hide. Action should be pretty spicy here. All these players extremely experienced, so playing short-handed is not at all outside their comfort zone. But of course, nobody's as experienced five-handed, especially if you're an MTT grinder, an MTT sicko. I mean, for most of the tournament, you're playing 7, 8, 9-handed. Of course, with the 6 max, maybe 6 at the most. But five-handed is one of those spots where not everybody can be just perfectly studied. So there are a lot of edges and exploits to be found.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably have to do a lot of studying short-handed or play sit and goes to get used to this as a tournament player.
Are you a fan of sit and goes, by the way? I love heads up sit and goes. Just non-stop action.
Personally, no, but I think that's what being a tournament player has made me like. I believe I just want to go for the big prize pool, so I'm a slave to that big number for first. So I think that's why that's why sit and goes don't really excite me. But I think it's a great spot to start with when you're starting out because it means you get to play a lot of 9 and 8-handed and heads up and 3-handed. So starting out with sit and goes is like a nice, fun-paced game and gives you an opportunity to play at every stack depth and also short and large-handed. So yeah, for sure,
Some
like a great
ICM
starting
practice
point.
as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I started with, and I think that's a good starting point for most players. Does the pool want to get disrespectful with the 10-5? Chooses not to.
Ace 8 suited, under the gun, easy open for Rodrigo. Jack 9 off. Quickly to defend. For deuce. 2 clubs. Not much to write home about for either player. Rodrigo's still in the lead. And the betting lead. Probably contemplating what size he wants to continue here. Does decide to check.
You've seen some
7 of
interesting
clubs on the turn.
checkbacks, some pretty dry boards in this final table. I thought we would have seen a little bit more C betting. Just, I don't think it's a board we're going to get check raised much on. The deuce doesn't hit the big blind. Deuce is pretty much an empty card. Just picture it not being there. So there's some flush draws they can check raise, of course. But yeah, quite surprising. Does Jack 9 want to take a stab at this now and bet 2x pot? No, just giving up. Takes down a small one. So right now, there's not too many super short stacks. We've got everyone over 20 big blinds. So the pool waiting for someone to chip down quite a bit before he goes crazy again. Right now, he's going to be a pretty normal range. Raise, I can't imagine shoving, just a nice call. And on the flop, it's interesting if you face a bet because you don't have a backdoor flush draw. So, and when you call, sometimes you get counterfeited. A queen can come on the turn. And if a queen doesn't come on the turn, it could run out 7-7. So it gets interesting if you want to float this one without a heart. I personally don't know the answer. He decides to call. Top
At the
pair on
same
the
time,
turn here.
it probably feels too weak to even consider folding there. I mean, the board is fairly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be smack the extremely wide open range from the button of the chip leader. Does have the flush draw on the flop, gets converted to top pair on the turn. Makes a big bet, trying to extract a lot of value. Now's the time to let the threes go.
Yeah, I think the threes on the flop is probably more a matter of how many short stacks are at the table. If he's short himself, let's just say Rodrigo has like 20 big blinds, and each other stack, or let's say he has 30 big blinds, probably a better example, and each other stack has like 20, he might fold a little bit more. But being a little bit deeper, and there being some 25 big blind stacks, think he sees calling a little bit better. And what is
Yeah,
Nick going
that's
to do
also
here? Is he just
ICM.
going to call? He is not going to put it in there. I think it's a smart call. Any
What a
fancy
great
checking
flop.
here from Goku? No.
Essentially flops the world without having a pair there, Goku. Effectively betting for value here, wanting to build a pot if and when he hits what would be a monster, either Broadway or a flush, higher pair. Takes this one down. Players now on
Time.
break. There we see 195, 997. Let's call it an even 196,000 to the winner there. We're down to five-handed, as I said. Players guaranteed 84,000 already. Of course, it's a $10,000 GG Millions. We are looking at the final five. Just going through the payouts once more: 176 to second place, 137 to third, and I did miss the fourth one, but I think it's about 109,000 to fourth place. 84, of course, locked in. So everything yet to play for as we've cut the break short thanks to the beautiful delay we have here. Back to the
Yeah,
action.
love it.
King Queen versus King Queen.
The 107,000 to the fourth there, bottom left, just hidden.
Yep.
Who wants this hand more? And guys, don't forget, as we get closer to heads up, you have a chance to win the jackpot. Top link pinned in the YouTube chat. Try and guess the winning hands. You can throw in aces, you can put in ace king, and if you guess correctly, you can win the jackpot. So check out that link at the top. Make sure you submit your answers before they get heads up and it ends quickly. Looking like both players might just check down here. King Queen for the button doesn't have much incentive to bluff. He beats King Jack, he beats King 10. It's a lot of hands. Probably doesn't expect hijack to fold. Too many pairs there.
Solid rail, by the way, for Goku, it seems like in chat. Successful player online. Goku 9000. Let's go, people say. Let's go indeed. Now the final five. Goku certainly in the mix. Well, of course, a clear chip leader. However, it's one of those spots, and of course, one of those chip distributions where literally anything can happen. Any all in would absolutely change the dynamic of this one way or the other. Oof. How about the straight
Mr.
flush draw?
POTUS, you don't need to guess who wins it. You just need to guess the winning hands. So we're not going to make it that hard. Nice and easy. Just guess the winning hands. You don't have to get the right suit. I don't believe, at least. We can get clarification on that. Do we need to guess the right suits? I think it's just the hands. Dream turn card. How'd the action go, Vidur, on the flop?
I believe it was the check call.
Uh-huh.
Trap on the river does not work. Goku takes a showdown value. These are relative good news. Of course, it's bad news to lose the hand, but we're up against a monster. Got away fairly cheap. Did not face that river bet. Ace on the button, easy open. Absolute rags for Rodrigo on the big blind. Lets this one go. Rich get richer, as they say. 4.3 million for the ball. I believe not the highest chip stack he's had all tournament, but pretty up there. Over the 4 million mark. K Maslak 1.05 with the blinds going up to 3060. Looking at a hair over 15, maybe 16 big blinds. Nobody too short. Not that top 10 big blind danger zone, but five-handed. Lines come quickly, action comes quickly. Anything can happen.
We might see the pool open every ace here now. Yep, looks like he is. And ace-8 suited on the button. I think it's a nice call up against a very wide range. All the worst ace-X in there. Probably opening hands like King 9, King 10 offsuit, 10-9 offsuit. So I think it's a nice... Oh, it just folds it. I want to preserve that second chip stack, which is interesting. I think it's certainly close. I'd probably lean towards call, but yeah, very interesting. Doesn't want to get squeezed shoved on as well, I imagine. What a
How
shove
about
here
a
from King
three-bet
7
jam?
suited. Yeah.
What a spot
I
to
actually think
take.
it's really, really, really nice. He like again, he's gonna be up against all. He's basically up against like wider than a button opening range. You know, he expects there to be every ace, every king, like queen 10 offsuit, jack 10 offsuit, 10-9 suited. So pretty cool spot. I personally would have just called, but I don't mind it for now. I personally would have leaned towards something more connected, like queen 9, queen 10 suited. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well timed. Jack and also a little bit wide here from Nick. And K Mess like in a pretty tough spot. 20 big blinds. Just decides to call it, recognizing that Nick's gonna be pretty tight in general and getting it all in there. I don't think it's bad to shove ace jack 'cause 20 big blinds button cutoff, but yeah, that's a surprising one. I'm not really sure how you're meant to play that spot.
Yeah, some creative plays there, not just the King 7 suited jam, but flat right now with the Ace Jack. Easy continue there with the gut shot and the over for K Maslak. Of course, Jack 9 gives the open ender to the pre-flop razor, but the King would be absolute disaster for Nick. Barring that, he can start turning his hand into a three barrel. He thinks that he
Yeah,
can get away with,
it's a
putting
good
the
thing.
pressure on Maslak.
I think it's a nice three barrel. Also, something to take into account is that K Maslak will probably shove ace queen pre-flop. Yes, he has king queen in his range, but you're blocking queen jack suited, which is nice. You unblock spades in your range, so like Maslak can have ace eight of spades, ace nine of spades, king jack of spades, and call fold. So pretty nice spot to bet the turn as well. I think make him fold some 10x like ace 10, king 10 suited.
Look
Deciding
at
just to
this.
give up though,
It's up the open
not
ender.
thinking it's
You don't
worth
see
it.
that every day.
No. I guess the problem with checking the turn is that once you face a bet, you're even behind some bluffs now, like flush draws and king jack. So I think he's just waving the white flag once he checks the turn with a hand like jack nine.
Yeah, but that's a lot of equity to give up, as we just saw. Of course,
Yeah,
was absolutely
surprising not to
crushed
see a
there.
turn bet.
Yeah, King would have been disaster, as we said, was drawing pretty slim. Jack would not have helped either, but pretty surprising line taken there by Nick. And of course, just goes to show about value of these chips. The pay jumps are becoming huge. Nick now the shortest stack after that hand. He stayed off on the big blind. Should be a defense here, of course. Last like Ace Jack once again. Make the rush, doing well. Wow,
Wow,
Nick lets this one
surprising.
go as well.
Surprising fold there. I think his reasoning is that he's up against a super tight range and he wants to defend better ace X. But I would have defended pretty much all ace X. I think it's good enough because K Maslak should still be opening a lot of suited hands, broadways.
However, the discipline and the patience perhaps rewarded Ace King off in the small blind, Ace 9 open from Goku, easy jam, 3-bet jam, of course, very profitable, picks up those big blinds, antes, as well as the open from Goku. So 1.26 million for Nick now, once again effectively tied for bottom position along with K Maslak, but comfortable stack nonetheless. Blinds are up, by the way, 35k, 70k, under 20 bigs for Nick. A hair over 20 bigs for K Maslak.
All probably going to get really aggressive here with a lot of high cards blind versus blind for like around 22, 23 big blinds. Expect to see like a 3x. Goes for a 4x, putting all the pressure on. There's no super shorty, but recognizing that he still needs to defend very tight here. Wonder if Goku wants to play a 3-bet. You know, we saw him check raise the queen 3, he had trips that time.
This is what I love, by the way, about watching Cards Up coverage, watching the GGMillion stream every week with Jeff Gross. You get to see what it takes to win against the elite, to be an elite player, what to do with a large chip stack, and of course, how to fight back against a large chip stack. Look at this, Goku 9000, King 6 off, does put in the raise. Asking DePaul the question, were you fooling around? Do you want to commit to this hand? Do you want to convert this into some sort of a 4-bet jam bluff? Put me to the test. He does! Never missing an opportunity to apply pressure. puts it in and
Absolutely.
takes it down. Wow, what a
What's
hand.
it's even better. He's down to 34 seconds, which makes like really interesting to find that under the pump there with like not much time bank left. Um, wow, yeah. I think the main property in that hand is that if we're just talking from a regular chip EV standpoint, when you're 20 big blinds affected blind versus blind, big blinds tend to just call with a lot of their pocket pairs. This includes hands like sevens all the way up to aces. And it sounds weird saying just calling sevens facing a raised blind versus blind. But what's so good about calling those hands is that you're going to be up against such a polar range. So the small blind's going to be raising hands like we just saw. King three, king deuce, king four. They're going to have queen four, jack deuce. They're going to have a lot of one over, one undercard. So when you call a hand like sevens, it seems scary, but you're not going to see hands like 8, 9, 10, 9, jack 10, queen jack. These hands are just calling pre-flop. So I think the Paul, when he gets 3-bet there, he's just thinking, well, I think you're going to call aces, kings, and queens a lot. So it comes down to, are you 3-betting here with ace queen, ace king suited? Are you shoving those hands? Speaking of shoves, all in, king queen, and a call. Depends. It's a fair fight. Nick whiffing the flop, whiffing the turn down to 6 out. Needs a paint card.
Ain't.
Oh, it's the diamond though. He hits the king of diamond,
Wow.
surviving. Hey,
What a
Maslak with a
relief.
painful,
That must
painful
be.
beat there.
Yeah, a dagger through the heart of K Maslak, no doubt, who is now down to just 2.5 big blinds. I'm actually still recovering from that King Little versus King Little battle. You did a great breakdown there, Pav. But I mean, what does that say about the mindset DePaul has here? I mean, talk about being in it to win it. Like absolute G on this table, putting pressure and putting that stack to work. I mean, talk
Yep.
about having a favorite. It's impossible to not see this play and just pin DePaul as the favorite to take this down.
Absolutely. And I was curious to see if he wanted to 3-bet the ace 7 here, thinking, all right, K Maslak has 175,000 chips. Goku's going to hate being faced with any 3-bet here, but decided to just call the ace 7. I also think what's more impressive with that king 3 jam is that he doesn't need to do it. He can fold and remain chip leader, but he's so confident in his play that he decides to go for it and put his chip lead at risk. And Queen 8 suited getting him way ahead here. 7-4 having to call any 2 cards. Nice safe flop here for Maslak.
Yeah, had it locked up by the turn. Is going to find the double up, but it's only up to 400k in chips. That's good for about, I believe that would be 5.5 bigs. So King Jack off has to get it in here. 5.5 bigs good enough. Pocket eights, I see. It's in the
Yep.
big blind. Rodrigo with pocket eights. There we go. Commits
And
himself. It's going to be another flip. Maslak is going to be looking at those flip gods for some redemption after that king on the river against Nick. Off the races, king right in the window.
King again.
8 would
Used to
crush
be a
the
heart
dreams of
or
K
a
Maslak.
spade.
Nope. Not to be.
So
So
this is
two double ups, excuse me, in a row. And pretty much back in the game above the 10 big blind level. I think Nick and perhaps the other shorter stacks as well are going to be sort of pretty disappointed with that outcome, considering they were eyeing the pay jump to get to the 6-figure mark. 84k guaranteed to everybody on this table, but 107k is the next pay jump. Serious money is being played for here. These guys are just the best, though. They're used to it all.
yeah, this is a great result here for DePaul because now a short stack is still in the middle, so he can start putting on pressure against the rest of the players. I'm sure he loves that part. Betting the middle pair for value here. Gonna be faced with a check raise pretty often. Rodrigo probably not looking to check call a hand this strong. He's gonna be up against the worst Jack X, obviously some good 7X. And I think very reasonable from both players here. Strong fold middle pair there.
Wow. Nick has made some really tight folds, but in this case, he was absolutely correct, drawing extremely slim there. Discipline works out in this
Really,
case.
that's impressive. Still gonna be some bluffs there for Rodrigo with like 9-8 and 10-9. Shoving the suited queen here, blind versus blind. For about 12 or 13 big blinds. It was actually 11 big blinds, excuse me.
Pretty standard, I'd say, around the 11 big blind mark. Just
Yeah.
politically correct against the shortest stack.
Even 15, 16, 17 big blinds with ICM, even though he's a short stack, I don't mind that play.
Nine jam, pretty standard, goes through. King 10 this time. Now, above the 10 big blind mark, not as easy to find the jam. Never mind. Nick opens it up with King 3 suited and gets this through. Very interesting
very
play
strong.
there by Nick.
I think
Really
it's
leveraging
nice
the
for
momentum.
Nick. Like
Yeah,
the
my
big
apologies,
stack's in the
go ahead.
small blind, so the big stack won't have position on him. The big stack won't be defending the big blind because it's small blind, so cool spot to open. Gets mass like the folder hand that dominates him. And we see a half stack. So in case button goes all in and big blind goes all in, mass like can fold it. But now let's see what DePaul choosing to fold the sixes here, thinking that it's a little bit too weak against that range and preserving his stack and putting an aggression in the future is worth a little bit more. I don't think he folds a hand like sevens. I think sixes might be the strongest hand he folds there, which is a little bit surprising because yeah, a lot of suited aces there for Maslak. Like Maslak should have ace deuce suited, deuces, threes, fours. So interesting fold.
Interesting piece of strategy there. I mean, ace four suited puts in the half stack commit. It gets a better hand to fold. Not something I would expect if he'd in fact jammed. I feel like DePaul might have called it off.
Another slam dunk here, but look at this. We're gonna see some action. There's already one king dead, so it's gonna be all in here between Maslak and Rodrigo. Although ace king folding facing a 3-bet here is maybe not that surprising, but I don't think he will 5-handed. Rodrigo, if he's watching the delay, I think he expects Rodrigo to. We've seen him 3-bet bluff some ace jack and ace queen, so let's.
It's time.
It's a little bit too
it's time
strong
to see
here.
how much Maslak wants to go for the win here, because of course, ace king can be ahead of the 3-betting range of Rodrigo fairly easily. He does decide to put it in. These guys are of course playing for it all. The lead of the game. Time for the classic flip. Lots at stake here. Clean board so far for Rodrigo. 5 on the turn changes nothing. An ace or a king on the river for Maslak, or we are down to the final 4. It is paint. I do see paint. It is a queen, though, making top set. And we do lose what was the shortest stack right now on the table. Okay, Maslak. GG, sir. Walking away 5th place, 84,000 USD. Very well played and an absolutely great result. But we are now up to the 6-figure mark of $107,000 guarantee to all these players. Back to the action immediately. We see the nut flush draw for Rodrigo. Decides to bet it out, takes this one down. That for momentum is going to put himself into a clear 2nd place. Goku now, the shortest stack. 70,000 is the big blind, so about 15 big blinds in the stack of Goku. In the small blind right now. Pocket aces for the chip leader. Easy life. Big 3-bet, by the way.
Is Nick gonna shove? That's what I'm thinking. Is he gonna rip it?
Does seem unlikely given the play that we've seen from Nick so far. A little bit more snug, certainly very creative, but has been very disciplined when it comes to folding. Arguably even sometimes conservative. Of course, you do want to fight back against the chip leader, and that big 3-bet is a little bit sus, as they say. We have seen DePaul fold to 4 bets before, something that Nick has no doubt noticed. The fact that he's taken so long means he is considering it, Pav. You might be onto something.
And he can still call. I mean, calling might not be that bad. Problem with calling is that the button sometimes is bluffing with king 10, ace 10 here. But, he has really good equity against hands like ace 7, ace 8, ace 9, ace 5 that could be bluffing. So there's not going to be a heap of jack and 10x in buttons range. Like king jack probably just calls, ace jack probably calls, ace 10 will mix it. So I think calling is not that bad either, but it's not amazing because Goku is obviously very, very short. So you want to be, perhaps in that spot you want to continue with like shove or fold with a hand like that.
Yeah, Nick takes the conservative route as we suspected. Does let that one go and was absolutely right in that case. I mean, his radar has been a bit uneven, but pretty good in the spots that really matter. We saw that King 7 fold as well. against the check raise of the king jack. In this case, lets that jack 10 suited go. Goku, as you said, is under 15 big, so all eyes on Goku. The next pay jump is a big one. 30,000 USD is the pay jump. Third place, 137,000. Four-handed here at the final table of the GG Millions. By the way, to everybody in chat who hasn't participated in the Hands Up game that is pinned to the chat, make sure you do it now because the game ends as soon as there are only 3 players left. So the next elimination, no more guesses allowed. Till then, let us know what you think the winning hand will be. It's just pinned in the chat. Definitely participate. Free money, free prize. Why not? And our guesses are locked in, by the way. Pav, I was ace deuce, I believe, and you were queen 10? Queen 10 off, you
Queen
said?
10, correct. Yeah. Betting the open ender with a 9-4 here, picking a really big size, which is nice because it puts a size in a tough spot. And if we think about it, the big blind's going to have a lot more 2 pairs here, like 3 deuce, 5 deuce, 4 deuce, or 4 deuce to check the turn, but small blind's not going to limp with 5 deuce, 5-3, and 3 deuce. So it's a good card for the big blind. It's going to go check now a lot, of course. I think 4-9 just has too much showdown value, and it's going to run into an ace too much. So I don't expect there to be many shoves. However, if you have an ace and you face a 1.5x pot jam there, when you're up against some 6x, a little bit tricky.
Yeah, and let's not forget the last time we saw DePaul make the 1.5x. He actually had the goods and did get paid off. As it happens, Nick picks that up with that beautiful gut shot coming in on the river and is now up to almost 3 million in chips. So a great spot. 2 middle stacks, but the biggest stack now, DePaul, the gap has sort of narrowed. 4 million for DePaul, about 3 for both the remaining middle stacks and, of course, the shortest stack. Goku has 6-4 off. Lets that one go. All eyes on Goku, as they are at this stage of the tournament. Biggest pay jump incoming. Time for the chip leader to really separate himself from the pack by using that ICM pressure of Goku hanging around. He's been the most aggressive player on this table by far, and the ace-9 goes in for Goku. He's going to go through. By the way, Pav, we see a comment in chat saying 1-5 Pav strikes again. You care to explain that little nickname that seems to be going on?
Yeah, so I keep saying like, oh, perhaps, we can call Queen Jack and fold Queen 10, like just 1 pip stronger or one pip weak. I mean, so many spots we're encountering today are just like that close that, it really is just like that 1 pip stronger we can continue. So very, yeah, a lot of close spots. But that's what final tables present, right? A lot of close spots.
If it was easy, we'd all do it.
If you guys are liking the coverage today, hit the like button on the YouTube streets. Help increase that like counter. And look at the pool, just picking the old Queen 10 on a really dry low board. Don't expect Rodrigo to let go of the 7s just yet. He's going to see 5-3, 5-6, ace-3. Not a great turn with 5-6 getting there. And potentially DePaul having a hand like 3 deuce suited, check raising a little bit. So yeah, definitely uncomfortable on the turn here. Fortunately for Rodrigo, he sees a check. He'd much more prefer to have like 6s and 5s on the turn here if he calls a turn bet. So he may have actually folded this one. But Rodrigo just giving up, not wanting the smoke.
And a great protection bet, for lack of better words, there from Rodrigo. Just ends the hand there, realizing how many bluffs that DePaul would have had that have absolutely no continues on this turn. Very well played, and that might be one of the ways you fight back against the chip leader. Sort of find a hand, hold on tight. When they give you the window, take it down. Now up to 3.5 million in chips, and is in fact the new chip leader. It's been a while since anybody else was the chip leader since DePaul, so there we go. Tables have been turning very slowly, and now Rodrigo finds himself in the chip lead. So effectively, 2 chip leaders, 1 short stack, 1 middle stack is the dynamic right now.
2 Brazilians as well, chip leading.
Indeed.
I see a shove here, and I guess a call here for Nick. A7 seems a little bit too strong. I would probably fold a hand like ace deuce, ace three. Oh, he finds a fold here. Interesting. Wanting to preserve that third place, got a nice chip lead over the bottom stack. Yeah, very interesting fold there. So that 40 big blinds effective here. The calling the jack seven suited. Let's see if we get into another leveling war here. Potentially see a check raise and potentially continue with a hand like queen 10 with some backdoor equity. Might just see the 300 check raise. 272. And he has no time bank officially, so the poll will now get 5 seconds on every street. We'll start seeing a countdown feature. It's a really nice turn card with the poll here. He's going to have hands like 7-8, 10-8. He could probably small bet to like 300k a lot in this spot. Goes to the bet 50. Wow. More like bet 60. So bets 552, I believe. If I'm reading that correctly.
Well, yeah, he was
Takes it
setting up
down.
for a perfect one SPR on the river, perhaps adding to the sort of strength of that bet. And our poker takes it down. Once again, takes back the chip lead. I was taking a look at some of the chip stacks that players came in with. We must highlight Goku 9000, by the way. Came in shortest stack, under 10 big blind. Has chipped up all the
Really?
way to fourth place finish guaranteed and battling it out to try and take it down. Rodrigo and Nick were middle stacks coming in, and DePaul, as it happens, was the chip leader coming in the final table as well, with about 58 big. So very well played, as we have mentioned by him so far. King Deuce now on the button against the Ace 9, middle pair for Rodrigo. Almost no time bank, as you mentioned, for DePaul. So he's just playing power poker under time pressure. Crazy. Betting machine does pick up the gut shot.
Not much equity though. He's betting no equity. Can he find it? Whereas Rodrigo's going to have two pairs. He's going to have a jack and a pair and a flush draw. Really just gets like the best result possible there. Rodrigo just having a weak pair with not much additional equity. So some aggressive poker taking it down. Nick folding the suited 7-3.
You said, can he find it? I had no doubt he could find it. I mean, if you've been watching this final table, you know he can find it. It might not always work. And as you said, he had the right combo that he was facing to take that down. But DePaul certainly can find a bet and a bluff when needed. Goku takes that one down. King Jack off, still hovering below the 1 million mark with putting in the small blind. Blinds are now 80k. Big blind, that is. That's good for just a hair over 12 bigs right now, his stack. 9-6 suited is not going to be able to continue on this board. So, go hovering around that 12 big blind mark. All eyes on Goku, of course. Beijon's getting big here. The players seem to be just wanting to fight. They're not really worrying about the shortest stack. Certainly, if you look at the action between DePaul and Rodrigo on multiple hands, almost like they've been ignoring Goku. And how about kings versus deuces for the shortest stack on the button? Might find the jam. Indeed, he does. An ace-10 suited. Bit of a decision. Of course, with DePaul in the mix. Tough spot there for Rodrigo, of course. Would have been calling off fairly easily. Does fold it. Good timing, too. The king's call. Tough spot for Goku. We might be down to three-handed unless he spikes the deuce. Flop is clean, as is the turn. The two outer to save Goku. Not to be, as we lose our fourth place finisher and probably a few disappointed fans who were railing him in chat. Goku 9000 says thank you. GG, sir. Walks away with 107,000. What a great payday. Six-figure score at the GG Millions. As we're down to the final three, the big stack of DePaul continues to dominate. Over 5 million in chips now. 137,000 guaranteed to everyone. This is it, Pav. Down to the final three. All to play for.
Yeah, I think
There's a clear favorite
it's a
here.
nice shove. A nice jam from the deuces as well, I think. I think he certainly still has spot equity. The pool should have hands like 8-9 and 10-9 offset, which will raise fold. So just unfortunate.
Absolutely, yeah. Sort of a standard. I mean, the cards played themselves. King's always opening. I feel like deuces given that it is the chip leader and the most aggressive person, you do want to always jam it in, get that fold equity. Wasn't to be this time around.
Yeah, versus a tighter range, maybe you can find the fold, but certainly not cut off versus button. Jack 3 from Rodrigo, raising it up with a very polar strategy here. King 5 suited certainly not going anywhere, a little bit too strong. And they started the hand around 35 big blinds effective. See betting small with a backdoor flush draw on ace high, looks nice. Shouldn't see many check raises here, maybe a little bit. Probably not too bad, but you don't really need to check raise because you're beating bluffs anyway with king high. So that's cool. Let's see how far Rodrigo wants to take this one with no equity.
Yeah, considering we didn't see the check raise from the nut flush draw, you're absolutely right. That happens. The nut flush draw misses. Does have the best hand. I feel like DePaul might be tempted to bluff with the best hand, but with both.
Yeah, he could because the problem is Rodrigo could have a 7 or a 9 that bluff pre-flop and check the turn. So he now gets to fold out some hands like 7 deuce or like 9-3. So I think it's very, very nice that bet.
5.4 million now officially has the majority of the chips in play at the GG Millions final table. That is a great spot, but just look at these stacks. I mean, a single all-in situation will just flip the board entirely. Essentially, a double up for any of the shorter stacks will make them the chip leader with a over 5 million stack. And the ball would be reduced to the 2.5 million mark. So, all to play for in anybody's game, but Paul has certainly been the man of the hour, the most aggressive person on the table, the big stack bully. Did lose the chip lead very briefly to Rodrigo, but instantly won it back and has extended it since. Queen now for Rodrigo, a must-raise hand against limp from the small blind. Standard sizing, Queen 6 suited, probably on the margin. Wow. Wow. Talk about margin. How about converting it into a jam and the correct call off from the King
Can't
Queen?
believe this. It's crazy.
Incredible. Wow. Backdoor flush draw, but DePaul mainly drawing dead, and that 8 locks it up. What do you think? Bit of a punt or just continuing the same aggression and did not work out this time?
I'm personally not sure. I guess he's shoving Queen 6. I don't think he expects King Queen to call. Otherwise, he'd never shove Queen 6.
What a great
I
call,
think in that spot, yeah, great call. I think Rodrigo's just thinking, all right, there's not a heap of ICM three-handed here. We're pretty equal in stacks. I'm going to be up against a lot of pocket pairs and maybe some hands like you just saw, the Queen 6, maybe some 6-7, 7-8 suited, 5-6 suited. Yeah, very.
Well, maybe
very
you saw the King 3 versus King 6 versus Goku 4-bet and realize as soon as there are some King X's in DePaul's range, and turns out there's some Queen X's as well, King Queen off is a must call, and exactly the situation I said. The stacks got flipped. Rodrigo now the out now chip leader. DePaul is crippled. He's in a spot he hasn't been all tournament, which is not being at least tied for the chip lead. Very interesting to see how he approaches. Does this temper his aggression, or is he going to double down on his aggression and try to win it back? You usually see one or the other. I'm very curious how this goes.
Yeah, the problem as well with King Queen there is that the pool can just be limp shoving Ace 10, Ace Jack, Ace Queen, Ace King, which is all pretty standard for 30 big blinds. So yeah, he ends up getting it in behind pretty often as well. So I think it's a interesting play from both players. Like, I think it's a little bit unorthodox from both players. But there's a leveling war going on. He recognizes the pool has been extremely aggressive. He's watching the delay mostly, so
yeah, I'm sure he is. And I'm sure that played into his decision for sure.
Absolutely.
Getting hit by the deck a little bit. Ace-9 suited, an absolute monster, three-handed. King-9 not too bad, and look at that, a fold on the button by King-9 off from DePaul, perhaps answering my question about how he's going to essentially adjust his aggression now that he's no longer the chip leader. What do you think of that fold?
I like it, purely because he makes money by folding, because he recognizes that Rodrigo is always going to raise, or he's going to raise a lot, I should say, and put pressure on the short stack. So, and he obviously can't raise call a hand like King-9 to a 3-bet. So he probably wants to be more suited heavy or have better king highs like King 10 offsuit. And wow, look at this. he can't help himself with these blockers. He cannot help himself. Well timed.
King Little
King
Ace Little
Deuce.
in the blinds is very hot these days in the poker world, I feel. A lot of aces for Nick. What you want to
We've
see with
seen
the
them a bit
short
on this
stack.
final table. Defending. Bet hole. Bet maybe like 120. Goes to the 150, I believe.
Does unblock hearts. Perhaps a reason to go slightly higher. Your opponent is likely to continue with some sort of fair backdoor and of course a clean flush draw. That's a great
Yep.
turn card there. Basically a blank. And just start pumping in more chips and set up for that river jam. Exactly what he does.
Yep. Goes for a little bit under half pot, about 40% now.
Well-timed fold there by Rodrigo. We move on to the next one very quickly, might I add. Of course, DePaul doesn't have any time bank left. He's acting extremely quickly.
Yeah,
Two
that's
players.
tough, isn't it? A veto in the chat. Why the payout so flat? Well, I think it's pretty reasonable the way it's structured. There's 104 runners in this tournament. 20 buy-ins to first. I think it's a reasonable payout structure. You don't want to have something crazy and be playing for 2x for first, like we're seeing in the World Series right now. 6 million to second, 12 million to first, I believe.
I think what they might be referring to, just to give them some credit, is the fact that the pay jump, at least how it's displayed, is bigger between third and second than second and first. I was curious
Oh, it
myself.
is
I'm not
too.
sure exactly what is going on
Yeah.
here because I did misspeak early on where I thought it was actually over 200K to first, but we're just going to have to get that looked into. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. We'll actually figure it out. I mean, needless to say, this is massive money to play for. It does change strategy if indeed it is 195, but like I said, it could be a little bit more and we'll figure it out. But as it happens, the players probably think they're playing for 195. We'll continue under that assumption.
Yep, we are on a 30-minute delay, Christopher Smith.
Yeah, Igor sorting out some of our woes here, saying it gives a 30K Triton ticket to first too.
I see.
Waiting for some
Okay.
confirmation that's worth over 30K. So, of course, there is that pay jump plus the ticket to play for. So, in terms of EV, you're probably looking at a very standard structure, but we will clarify. And thanks, Igor. Pocket eights on the button, king nine in the small blind, not the most, not the weakest hand three-handed, but ace queen in the big blind. And DePaul has not been shy to put chips in the middle. Rodrigo has not been shy in calling those chips in. So how about this?
I can't believe this.
Hand. Wow.
I mean, ace queen has to, and eights is gonna fold. Wow. Okay, safe. Safe so far for the ace queen. He's got a fade. 6 outs. Be pretty painful seeing a king or a nine here. It's a pain card. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. A king on the river again.
Nick,
Three-handedly remain.
Oof. The ball has to be soul crushed there with that river card. Nick rewarded for what could be called a bit of a punt there. The 3-bet jam the king nine. He would have been called by the eights. I mean, it seemed like he was doubling up no matter what once he decided to go all in. But what a sad outcome there for DePaul, who was looking at essentially getting the chip lead back. We cut back to the action for a moment. The flop straight, by the way, for Rodrigo, and now the top pair. Chips need to be going in right now. The huge bet.
Yep.
Understandable with the bottom straight draw. Straight, excuse me. Nick has to continue with the top pair here. 4 to a straight now with that 7 on the river. Still, top pair for Nick has to look fairly strong considering the action. The flush draw did not come in. Queens missed as well. Nice to let this one go. Probably wanting to preserve that mighty stack that he just accumulated with that Lucky king on the river. What do you think of that all in there, Bob? I mean, misfire that happened to work out.
Yeah, the king nine I would just fold. King 10 offsuit seems totally reasonable. Oh, look at
How
this.
about queen
He
10
played the
suited?
shove. He's just not having it. He is not
Well,
having
how
it at
about
all. And let's
yeah,
sorry, go
excuse
on.
me, my apologies, but what happened to ICM pressure? Just disappeared. They shoved Queen 10
Yeah,
into the chip leader with the short
yeah.
stack on his left. What is going on here?
It's surprising because we've seen Nick play pretty snug, and then all of a sudden he's just launching it in there. King deuce into 8. If there's any silver lining for DePaul, he was going to lose with ace queen to 8 anyway. Now he needs to hit the miracle king on the river, as we're so used to seeing. Can he find it? King of hearts. I see it. No, he
Not to
doesn't.
be.
GG.
GG walks away 137,000, is going to be disappointed. As you said, once he looks back on the stream, he might realize he was going to lose the ace queen to the eights. Of course, the way things went down, almost like the maximum pain route. So, all that being said, GG, very well played. Just put on a clinic of how to play a big stack. And before I can even say GG, do the third place finisher, Nick has just jammed it in there with the pocket fives. And once again, king queen suited for Rodrigo. Very different opponent this time. That is a lot
Also,
of blinds to consider
37
calling
big
off.
blinds. Yeah, that is a lot of big blinds. Don't see him calling this one.
I have seen people make calls like this because they assume they're most likely up against a flip and once in a while against a weaker king, considering how Nick has been playing. But of course, we've seen the cards face up and Rodrigo has not. You usually just find a fold here and live to fight another day. He does call it off.
He's cold.
We are flipping for the tournament
Wow.
right now. Clean as they come on the flop. Pocket five still good. A 7 on the turn. A king and a queen only for Rodrigo to win this. Not to be. And what a turn of events. 9 million chips for Nick. Rodrigo down to just about 13 big blinds. This is craziness going on right now. A 6
really
easy
is.
jam. Wow. I mean, Rodrigo must be in shock as to what just transpired. First, the king 9, of course, then the pocket fives, and Rodrigo calls it off. Definitely an ambitious call. But as it happened, the correct one, he was flipping and, of course, was getting the pot odds to call. Did lose that flip, and what a flip it was. 176,000 guaranteed, by the way, to both these players. 195 plus the 30,000 Trident ticket, as we just mentioned, up for grabs. As we see a 5-1 chip lead for the new chip leader, Nick. Does have trips now with the King Deuce. What a turn of events. I was looking forward to a
Checking
long
the
heads-up
jack
battle
high.
here. Yeah, might not last more than a few hands, the way Nick seems to be wanting to get it in. So I do want to point out, by the way, Pavs, that Nick was the player with sort of the least history, in terms of results. Uh, uh, in terms of all the information we had on the players going in, he was the one without any significant results so far. You think it might be a conscious effort to just even out those edges in terms of just make it a high variance situation when you're facing somebody who's ultra elite, short-handed?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's a good strategy for players without much experience is just, raise the variance pre-flop and then go from there. Take away the edge, avoid so much limping, raise a little bit more, three bet a little bit more, pick larger sizes. I think it's a reasonable strategy. Well, getting it in way ahead here. King high with a flush draw versus king 6.
It also
Does
does
he
help, of
continue
course, to
betting?
have the poker gods shining upon you. In those King 9 v Ace Queen, and of course the Pocket 5 flip situations. And really, that's what it's all about, finding yourself in spots where you can effectively win those flips and take down one of the most prestigious tournaments. Of course, the GG Millions, 195,997. Let's just call it an even 196 to the winner. He now has a 6-1 chip lead, as well as the best hand right now. Very, very well positioned to take this down. Well, we said he didn't have any results. He's going to be adding 196K if he takes this down, and is at least guaranteed to add 177K to the season. What a great result for Nick there.
Yeah, and Stoller asking, are the payouts correct? They are. You also have to keep in mind that there is a $30,000 Triton ticket for first, so a bit of additional value there.
Unfortunate river for Rodrigo, but does not face any heat. Probably will check this down, take a showdown value. See the bad news. Loses one more to Nick. Now under $1 million in chips. A 10-1 chip lead. Over a 10-1 chip lead, in fact. For Nick. Easy jam with the ace. Sometimes when the poker gods shine, they just shine brightly. The man cannot do any wrong. Getting the best of it, getting it in with the best of it, flopping the best of it. Reflop the best of it. Ace 3 again. King 3 is going to be a jam. I suspect a quick call from the Ace 3. This might be it, ladies and gentlemen. Nick, a heavy favorite to take this one down. King and a king only for Rodrigo.
Surely not.
With the 4.
Surely not again with these kings.
Not to be.
Taking it down.
Incredible.
Great stuff. Congrats, Nick. Taking it down for $195,000. Focus Nick. What an avatar as well. Congrats. What a final table.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible.
What are your thoughts on that final table, Vidur? How do you think it played?
Well, it did not disappoint in terms of some of the elite players showing why they are the elite players. Of course, thinking back to DePaul, player from Brazil, Bruno Souza, I believe his name is, putting on an absolute clinic in terms of how to play a big stack, how to be that big stack bully, that table captain, as they say. And it came down to three-handed, did get a pretty unfortunate run out with that king on the river. And let's not take away from Nick, a man who did not, well, assume a man, person at least, who did not seem to have any results to his name so far on the circuit in this season. And now it's going to be adding 195,000 and that 30,000 prize ticket with that first place finish. And of course, GG, the second place finisher as well, Rodrigo, did come in, was a chip leader very briefly, did end up getting it in into that massive flip for the tournament. And sometimes you got to win flips to win tournaments. Did not work out, but very well played.
Yeah, I think the highlight for me would be the pool. All the limp raising, the 3-betting, the 4-betting. That was a really fun final table, and almost a shame not to see DePaul make it heads up, because I feel like it would have been a pretty fun heads up match. But that being said, we did get that interesting 5s versus King Queen for 80 big blinds in the middle. That was a really big one pre-flop there, so that certainly helped speed up the action heads up. So congrats again to Focus Nick. Enjoy your money and well played.
Yeah, very well played, Focus Nick, GG, as Pav just said. And thank you so much to everybody who joined us in chat at the final table of the GG Millions. And of course, a special shout out to the host with the most, who we are filling in for, Mr. Jeff Gross, who is hopefully running very, very deep in the main event at the World Series of Poker right now. So of course, good luck to him. We are rooting to see him at the final table. You can follow his progress, of course, by looking at where he's at in the main event. And Pav, thank you so much for having me on. It was an incredible final table, as we said, and I, of course, learned a lot from you as well. One of the greats, one of the great content creators and players out there. What do we have to look forward to from you, by the way, in the coming week?
Thank you, mate. For me, I'm just going to be focusing on some vlogs in Vegas, so you can find me on YouTube at AllinPav if you want to see some main event and cash game vlogs. Otherwise, it's been great having you guys here. If you like the stream, hit the like button on your way out. And thank you very much for watching, guys.